Are you still poor? Let's not mince words. Are you? Genuinely, truly, after all this time, all the effort, all the promises you've made to yourself and perhaps to those you love, are you still poor? Or if not outright poor, are you still trapped in a cycle of barely enough, perpetually chasing the tail of your expenses, living paycheck to paycheck, or simply existing in a state of financial discomfort that gnaws at your peace of mind? This isn't a rhetorical question designed to make you feel bad. It's a gut punch, a stark reality check that if you're reading this, you probably need. Because let's be brutally honest, if you were truly thriving, if your financial life was a masterpiece of abundance and security, you wouldn't be holding this book. Not yet, anyway. This isn't another fluffy self-help manual filled with motivational platitudes that vanish like mist in the morning sun. This is a confrontation. This is a mirror being held up, not to shame you, but to show you the truth of your financial reflection. And the truth, my friend, is often uncomfortable. It's not about blame, it's about awakening. It's about stripping away the layers of excuses, the comforting lies we tell ourselves, and the societal conditioning that has quietly, insidiously, kept generations tethered to financial mediocrity, or worse, outright destitution. So take a deep breath. Are you ready to see? Are you ready to feel that uncomfortable stirring within, that flicker of indignation or recognition that says, yes, something needs to change, and it needs to change now? Good, because that feeling, that raw, unadulterated yearning for something more, is precisely where your transformation begins. For far too long, we've been fed a narrative that financial struggle is a given, a byproduct of the system, a stroke of bad luck, or simply the hand we've been dealt. We point fingers at inflation, at the job market, at our parents, at the government, at the billionaires, at everything and everyone but the one person who holds the ultimate key to our financial destiny, ourselves. This isn't to say external factors don't exist. They absolutely do. The world is complex, often unfair, and rigged in ways that favor the few. But to dwell solely on these external forces is to disempower yourself, to abdicate responsibility for the one sphere over which you truly have control, your own decisions, your own mindset, your own actions. If you continue to believe that your poverty or your financial stagnation is solely someone else's fault, then this book will be useless to you. Close it now, seriously. But if there's a part of you, no matter how small, that suspects you might be complicit in your own financial predicament, that you might be holding yourself back in ways you haven't dared to acknowledge, then lean in, because this book is for you. Let's talk about the silent killer of dreams, the insidious enemy that lurks within, mindset. Poverty, true poverty, isn't just an empty bank account, it's a state of mind. It's a belief system, a set of deeply ingrained thoughts and feelings about money, abundance and worthiness that often dictate our actions long before we even realize it. You might say you want to be rich, that you crave financial freedom, that you work tirelessly, but if, deep down, you believe money is evil, or that wealthy people are inherently corrupt, or that you're simply not smart enough, lucky enough, or connected enough to ever truly escape the rat race, then every action you take, every opportunity you encounter, will be filtered through that limiting lens. You will unconsciously sabotage your own efforts, dismiss profitable ideas, cling to comfort zones that offer security but no growth, and ultimately perpetuate the very condition you claim to despise. Think about it. How many times have you dismissed a lucrative opportunity because it seemed too good to be true? How many times have you settled for less because you feared failure, or worse, feared success and the unknown responsibilities it might bring? How many times have you spent money you didn't have on things you didn't need to impress people you didn't even like? This isn't just bad budgeting. It's a symptom of a deeper malaise, a reflection of your underlying beliefs about yourself and your place in the world of wealth. We are creatures of habit, yes, but more profoundly, we are creatures of belief. And until we dismantle the belief systems that keep us small, that whisper doubts into our ears, that tell us we are destined for struggle, no amount of financial tips or tricks will fundamentally alter our trajectory. This isn't a book written from a place of judgment, but from a place of urgent concern. I've seen it too many times, brilliant minds trapped in debt, hard-working individuals barely scraping by, ambitious souls paralyzed by fear, students burdened by debt before their careers even begin, convinced that their education alone will guarantee success, only to find themselves adrift in a sea of competition and stagnant wages. Salary earners, caught in the golden handcuffs of a steady paycheck, trading their time for a fixed income, dreaming of entrepreneurship but never daring to take the leap, convinced that stability is the ultimate prize, even if it comes at the cost of true freedom. Poor people, locked in cycles of generational poverty, often inheriting not just financial scarcity, but also the very mindsets and habits that perpetuate it, seeing wealth as an impossible dream, a realm reserved for others. And what about business owners and aspiring entrepreneurs? Many start with a fire in their belly, a vision of breaking free, only to find themselves working harder for less, becoming employees of their own businesses, rather than true owners of their destinies. They confuse activity with productivity, passion with profit, and often fall prey to the same limiting beliefs about money that plague their employed counterparts. They might generate revenue, but do they generate true wealth? Do they understand the difference between cash flow and equity, between making a living and building a legacy? This book will challenge them to look beyond the daily grind and into the foundational principles that allow true empires to be built. Even the wealthy, those who have achieved a certain level of financial success, often find themselves on a different kind of treadmill. They might have accumulated assets, but do they understand how to preserve and grow that wealth sustainably? Do they know how to protect it from market volatility, from economic shifts, from the insidious erosion of inflation, and from the unforeseen challenges that life inevitably throws their way? Do they truly understand the difference between being rich and being wealthy? Being rich is about having a lot of money. Being wealthy is about having financial optionality, peace of mind, and the ability to live life on your own terms without constant worry about losing it all. This book will offer them a framework for not just accumulating, but truly mastering their financial landscape, ensuring their legacy extends far beyond their lifetime. So regardless of where you stand on the financial spectrum, this book is for you. It's for the student who fears crippling debt, the salary earner who feels stuck, the aspiring entrepreneur who can't seem to get off the ground, the business owner who wants to scale, and even the wealthy individual who seeks greater mastery and security. Because at its core, this book isn't just about money, it's about freedom. It's about understanding the universal principles that govern wealth creation, preservation, and growth, principles that are often counterintuitive to the masses, but are rigorously applied by those who achieve lasting financial success. This book is your wake-up call, designed to shake you out of complacency. It will not coddle you, it will ask you uncomfortable questions, it will challenge your most deeply held assumptions about money, work, success, and even yourself. It will probe into the insidious ways your culture, your upbringing, and your immediate environment have shaped your financial destiny. Have you ever considered that your current financial state might be a direct reflection of the unconscious money script you've been following since childhood? That the financial habits you've cultivated, perhaps even inherited, are precisely what's keeping you from the prosperity you desire? Let's dissect some common excuses. I don't have enough time. Really? Or are you simply prioritizing entertainment, distractions, or unproductive tasks over learning, planning, and executing the steps necessary for financial progress? I don't have enough money to start. Newsflash: the wealthiest people often started with nothing but an idea and an unwavering resolve. They didn't wait for a windfall, they created one, often with borrowed capital, sheer grit, and an innovative spirit. It's too risky. Is it riskier than remaining in a state of perpetual struggle, constantly stressed about bills and sacrificing your dreams on the altar of perceived security? True risk often lies in inaction, in clinging to a path that offers no true escape. And what about fear? Fear, that ancient primal emotion that paralyzes more dreams than any economic downturn ever could. Fear of failure. Yes, that's a big one. But what about the fear of success? The fear of responsibility, the fear of judgment from those you leave behind, the fear of losing what you've gained, the fear of becoming someone you don't recognize? These are often the unspoken demons that keep us from stepping into our full financial power. This book will help you identify these fears, not to eliminate them entirely. Fear is a natural human emotion, but to understand them, to master them, and to act despite them. It will teach you that courage isn't the absence of fear, but the triumph over it. You might be thinking, but I've read other financial books, I've tried things, nothing works. And to that I say, perhaps you haven't truly committed. Perhaps you haven't looked deeply enough into the root causes of your financial stagnation. Perhaps you've focused on symptoms rather than the disease itself. This book is not a quick fix. It's not a magic pill that will instantly transform your bank account overnight. It's a comprehensive framework, a step-by-step guide to not just understanding money, but mastering it. It will force you to confront uncomfortable truths, dismantle outdated beliefs, and adopt a new paradigm for wealth that transcends mere budgeting or saving. We will explore why society often discourages true wealth, subtly promoting consumerism and debt over savings and investment. We'll uncover how the education system, while valuable, often fails to equip us with the real-world financial literacy needed to thrive. We will challenge the very definition of work and income, showing you that trading time for money is a trap, and that true financial freedom lies in building assets that work for you, not the other way around. This isn't just about making more money, it's about transforming your relationship with money, understanding its flow, its power, and its potential to serve your deepest aspirations. This book will reveal that wealth is not a matter of luck or birthright, but a consequence of conscious choices, consistent action, and a relentless commitment to learning and growth. It is a path available to anyone, regardless of their starting point, their current income, or their past mistakes. It is a path built on principles that have stood the test of time, applied by countless individuals who transitioned from scarcity to abundance. It requires a shift in perspective, a willingness to question everything you thought you knew about money, and an unshakable belief in your own capacity to create the life you desire. Are you ready to stop making excuses? Are you ready to stop blaming external forces and instead take full ownership of your financial future? Are you ready to confront your fears, challenge your limiting beliefs, and step into a new identity, one where abundance is not a distant dream but an attainable reality? If your answer, even faintly, is yes, then consider this moment the turning point. Consider this book your guide, your mentor, and your relentless truth-teller. The journey ahead will demand introspection, courage, and consistent effort. It will force you to examine your financial past, analyze your present habits, and deliberately design a future where poor is no longer a word that describes your financial state or your state of mind. But before we dive into the practical strategies, the actionable steps, and the precise blueprints for building wealth, we must first address the most fundamental question, the one that truly separates those who perpetually struggle from those who ultimately thrive. Are you truly prepared to leave the comfort of your current financial reality, no matter how uncomfortable it may be, and step into the unknown territory of financial mastery? Because until you answer that with a resounding, undeniable yes, all the knowledge in the world will be but ink on a page, and the first step into that unknown territory begins right now. Chapter 1. The Poverty Mindset Trap. We left the introduction with a stark, uncomfortable question, one that echoes in the quiet corners of your mind. Are you truly prepared to leave the comfort of your current financial reality, no matter how uncomfortable it may be, and step into the unknown territory of financial mastery? If a flicker of yes ignited within you, then welcome to the first foundational step on this transformative journey. Because before we talk about bank accounts, investments, or income streams, we must confront a more fundamental, often overlooked truth. Poverty, in its most insidious form, begins not in the empty pocket, but in the cluttered mind. This isn't a theory, it's a deeply observed reality. You see it everywhere, if you choose to look. Individuals with immense talent, boundless energy, and undeniable intelligence, yet they perpetually hover on the brink of financial struggle. Conversely, you encounter others, seemingly unremarkable, who, against all odds, build lives of profound financial security and abundance. What separates them? It's rarely just luck, innate genius, or inherited wealth. More often, it is the silent, powerful engine of their internal world, their mindset. Your financial reality, the numbers in your bank account, the quality of your investments, the degree of your financial freedom is often nothing more than a meticulously crafted reflection of your deepest beliefs, fears, and assumptions about money, success, and your own worth. Long before opportunity or income enters the equation, your mind has already set the stage, often predetermining the outcome. Think of your mind as fertile ground. What you plant there, whether it's a seed of abundance or a seed of scarcity, will inevitably grow. If you cultivate beliefs rooted in limitation, fear, and inadequacy, no matter how many external opportunities bloom around you, you'll either fail to recognize them, or if you do, you'll unconsciously find ways to sabotage your own harvest. This isn't some mystical mumbo-jumbo, it's a profound psychological truth. Our subconscious beliefs act as powerful filters, shaping our perceptions, influencing our decisions, and ultimately dictating our actions. They are the invisible chains that bind us, often so subtly that we don't even feel their weight until we try to break free. Let's talk about these invisible chains, these limiting beliefs. They are whispers from your past, echoes from your childhood, lessons learned from your parents, your teachers, your friends, and the broader society. Perhaps you grew up hearing, "Money doesn't grow on trees," or "We can't afford that," delivered with a sigh that carried the weight of resignation. Maybe you witnessed arguments over bills, or observed wealthy individuals being painted as greedy, unethical, or selfish. These experiences, subtle or overt, begin to form your money script, an unconscious narrative that dictates your financial behavior. Consider the pervasive belief that money is the root of all evil. How many times have you heard that? It sounds noble, even spiritual, but its practical implication is devastating. If you truly believe money is evil, why would you ever pursue it with passion or conviction? Your subconscious mind, seeking to protect you from evil, will subtly steer you away from opportunities to earn, save, or invest. You might find yourself dismissing lucrative job offers, avoiding discussions about salary, or shying away from entrepreneurial ventures, all because a part of you equates wealth with something inherently bad. You might even feel a sense of guilt when you do earn more, finding ways to quickly spend it or give it away, unconsciously returning to a state of financial discomfort because that aligns with your ingrained belief that money is morally corrupting. This isn't a conscious choice, it's a deeply programmed response, a self-fulfilling prophecy orchestrated by your own mind. Or perhaps it's the belief that I'm not good with money. This isn't an assessment of your actual financial skills, it's a self-imposed label, a declaration of incompetence before you've even tried. If you walk into a financial situation convinced you're not good with money, guess what? You'll prove yourself right every single time. You'll avoid learning about investments, postpone creating a budget, or simply delegate all financial decisions to others, believing you're incapable. This belief often stems from early experiences, like struggling with math in school or making a few early financial mistakes, which then get cemented into a personal truth. But the truth is, financial literacy is a skill, like riding a bicycle or learning to cook. No one is born good with money. They become good with money by learning, practicing, and persisting. Yet the belief itself can prevent the very learning and practice that would lead to mastery. Another common limiting belief is that you have to be born rich to be rich, or only lucky people get wealthy. This worldview, while comforting in its abdication of personal responsibility, is profoundly disempowering. It paints wealth as an exclusive club, membership granted only by chance or birthright, effectively shutting down your own ambition before it can even ignite. If you believe your financial destiny is solely in the hands of fate, what incentive do you have to work tirelessly, innovate, or take calculated risks? You become a passive observer in your own life, waiting for a lottery win or a magic inheritance that for most never materializes. The truth, as history unequivocally demonstrates, is that the vast majority of millionaires and billionaires are self-made, having started from humble beginnings, often with nothing but an idea, relentless dedication, and an unshakable belief in their own potential. These beliefs, these deeply embedded programs, are the invisible architects of your financial reality. They are not merely thoughts, they are convictions that shape your perception of reality and define what you believe is possible for you. And if what you believe is possible for you is limited, then your actions will naturally follow suit. Beyond these foundational beliefs, we often find refuge in a sophisticated network of excuses. Excuses are the comfortable blankets we pull over ourselves when the cold wind of responsibility blows. They sound perfectly rational, even empathetic, but in reality, they are formidable barriers disguised as legitimate reasons for inaction. I don't have enough time, you might say. And indeed, modern life is demanding. But is it genuinely a lack of time, or is it a lack of prioritization? We all have the same 24 hours in a day. The truly financially savvy don't find time. They make time for learning, planning, and executing financial strategies, often by sacrificing less productive activities. They understand that a few hours spent today on financial education or planning can save them years of struggle down the line. I don't have enough money to start. This is perhaps the most pervasive and insidious excuse, particularly for those who genuinely struggle. It feels undeniably true when your bank account is depleted and bills are piling up. But consider this, wealth creation rarely begins with a massive capital injection. It begins with small, consistent steps, with resourcefulness, and with an unwavering commitment to building something from nothing. Many entrepreneurs started their empires with a borrowed laptop, a few dollars, and an unshakable belief in their idea. They didn't wait for a windfall, they created one. The first step isn't always about having capital, it's about having courage, creativity, and the discipline to save even the smallest amounts, to learn and to start. If you wait until you have enough money, you will likely wait forever, because enough is a moving target that your mind will continually redefine as you procrastinate. And then there's the ever-present shadow of fear. Fear is a natural human emotion, a protective mechanism. But when it comes to money, fear often morphs into a paralyzing force, keeping us trapped in financial stasis. The most obvious is the fear of failure, the thought of trying something new, investing, starting a business, negotiating a raise, and failing can be utterly terrifying. The ego hates failure. It whispers tales of embarrassment, ridicule, and wasted effort. So to protect ourselves from this potential pain, we simply don't try. We remain in our financial comfort zone, even if that zone is uncomfortable and unfulfilling, because at least it's predictable. We trade the possibility of growth for the certainty of stagnation. But here's a paradox. What about the fear of success? This might sound absurd, but it's a very real phenomenon. Success brings responsibility, visibility, and often change. It might mean leaving behind familiar routines, outgrowing old friendships, or having to manage more complex financial affairs. For some, the idea of being truly wealthy is intimidating because they fear the judgment of others, the pressure to maintain a certain lifestyle, or the weight of new responsibilities. They might unconsciously self-sabotage their progress, taking one step forward and two steps back, simply because deep down, the thought of actually achieving financial abundance feels overwhelming or alien. They fear becoming someone they don't recognize, or losing the identity tied to their struggle. There's also the fear of losing what little one has. This is particularly acute for those who have experienced genuine scarcity. The thought of taking a risk, even a calculated one, and potentially losing the meager savings or stability they possess can be unbearable. This fear leads to extreme conservatism, an unwillingness to invest or explore opportunities that carry any perceived risk, even if those are the very paths to true growth. This isn't financial prudence, it's financial paralysis. The mentor in me wants to tell you gently but firmly that the biggest risk is often taking no risk at all. Remaining stuck in a cycle of barely enough is perhaps the greatest gamble of all. Beyond personal fears, our financial mindsets are deeply influenced by cultural conditioning and our upbringing. From the moment we are born, we are immersed in a specific financial environment. The way our parents managed money, their attitudes towards debt, saving, spending, and discussing finances all contribute to our subconscious financial blueprint. If you grew up in a household where money was a constant source of stress, where arguments erupted over bills, or where scarcity was a recurring theme, you are likely to have adopted a scarcity mindset yourself. You might hoard money out of fear, or conversely, spend it impulsively as if it might vanish at any moment. Similarly, societal norms play a powerful role. We are bombarded with messages promoting consumerism: buy the latest phone, drive the newest car, keep up with the trends. Debt is normalized through easy credit and marketing that equates material possessions with status and happiness. Education systems, while crucial for many aspects of life, often neglect fundamental financial literacy, leaving young people ill-equipped to navigate the complexities of personal finance. We are taught to be good employees, to seek stable jobs and predictable salaries, but rarely how to become owners of assets, creators of value, or masters of our own financial destinies. This cultural conditioning subtly, yet profoundly, shapes our relationship with money, often nudging us towards behaviors that keep us dependent rather than financially independent. We become products of our environment, repeating patterns without ever questioning their efficacy or whether they truly serve our highest aspirations. It's like being born into a game with rules you never learned, yet are expected to play flawlessly. The culmination of these limiting beliefs, excuses, and fears, amplified by cultural conditioning, manifests as the poverty mindset trap. It's a self-reinforcing cycle where your internal state dictates your external reality, which in turn reinforces your internal state. If you believe you're destined to be poor, you'll act in ways that confirm that belief. You'll avoid financial education, shy away from opportunities, make poor spending decisions, and ultimately find yourself exactly where you feared you'd be. And then the cycle repeats. See? I told you I wasn't good with money. This is just how it is for me. This trap is far more powerful than any economic recession or personal misfortune because it operates within you, a silent saboteur of your potential. Your current financial reality is not a random outcome. It is, to a significant degree, a physical manifestation of your dominant thoughts and beliefs about money. If your mind is cluttered with doubt, fear, and scarcity, your financial life will mirror that chaos and constraint. If your mind is filled with possibilities, resourcefulness, and an abundance mentality, even in the face of challenges, you will find opportunities where others see only obstacles. It's not about ignoring reality, it's about shaping it through your perception and response. Two people can face the exact same challenging situation, a job loss, an unexpected expense, and their reactions, driven by their underlying mindsets, will lead to vastly different outcomes. One will spiral into despair and inaction, while the other will see it as a challenge to overcome, an opportunity to pivot and emerge stronger. This chapter is a call to introspection, a demand that you peel back the layers and examine the hidden programs running in the background of your mind. It's about recognizing that your financial struggle might not be due to a lack of income, but a lack of conviction, not a shortage of opportunity, but a surplus of limiting beliefs. It's about understanding that before you can change your bank balance, you must first change the internal narrative that governs it. This is the hardest work, the most uncomfortable truth, because it requires you to look inward and take full responsibility. But here's the powerful, liberating truth. If your financial reality is a reflection of your mindset, then by deliberately changing your mindset, you possess the power to fundamentally alter your financial reality. The good news is that unlike external circumstances, your mindset is entirely within your control. You can challenge those limiting beliefs, you can dismantle those excuses, you can confront and master those fears, you can rewrite your money script. This isn't about wishing for wealth, it's about cultivating the internal environment where wealth can flourish. It's about recognizing the internal barriers first, because without that recognition, all external strategies will eventually crumble under the weight of your unaddressed beliefs. So the fundamental question isn't whether you're still poor, but whether you are still thinking poor. Are you ready to admit that the biggest obstacle to your financial freedom might not be out there, but deep within your own mind? And if so, are you ready to embark on the challenging, yet incredibly rewarding journey of dismantling those invisible barriers, one thought, one belief, one fear at a time, to unlock the true financial potential that lies dormant within you? Because once you truly understand how to identify and confront these internal traps, the path to building lasting wealth begins to reveal itself, one deliberate step after another. But how precisely does one begin to rewrite the very code of their financial thinking to transform a lifetime of ingrained patterns into a powerhouse of wealth-attracting beliefs? That, my friend, is where our journey truly deepens. Chapter 2. The Illusion of Hard Work. In our first conversation, we confronted the uncomfortable truth that poverty, or at least financial stagnation, begins in the mind. We peeled back the layers of limiting beliefs, insidious excuses, and paralyzing fears that conspire to keep us financially tethered. We acknowledged that your current financial reality is, to a staggering degree, a reflection of the internal narratives you've unwittingly accepted and cultivated. And we left off with a critical question. If your financial mindset is the blueprint, how do you begin to rewrite that code? How do you transform a lifetime of ingrained patterns into a powerhouse of wealth-attracting beliefs and actions? The answer, paradoxically, begins by challenging one of society's most sacred cows, hard work. Now, before you recoil in disbelief or accuse me of heresy, hear me out. I am not for 1 second suggesting that effort is irrelevant, that dedication is useless, or that laziness is a path to riches. Quite the contrary. Hard work, indeed, is a non-negotiable component of any significant achievement, financial or otherwise. But here's the crucial distinction, the uncomfortable truth that few dare to utter in public. Working harder doesn't always mean earning more. In fact, for many, working harder simply means digging a deeper hole, cementing their position in a cycle of endless toil that yields diminishing returns and perpetual exhaustion. This is the illusion of hard work, a mirage that has captivated millions, leading them to believe that the sheer volume of their effort will inevitably lead to prosperity. We are conditioned from a young age to glorify the grind, to admire the tireless worker, to equate busyness with importance. Think of the accolades showered upon the person who burns the midnight oil, the one who puts in the extra hours, the individual who is always working. Society whispers, that's how you get ahead. But the brutal reality is that many of these seemingly indefatigable individuals, despite their unwavering commitment, remain stuck. They are the employees caught in an endless cycle of overtime, the freelancers constantly chasing the next gig, the small business owners working themselves to exhaustion without seeing their ventures truly scale. They confuse activity with progress, effort with outcome, and the relentless ticking of the clock with the strategic deployment of their most valuable asset, their time. Consider Sarah, a brilliant graphic designer. She's incredibly talented, meticulous, and dedicated. When she started her freelance career, she believed that if she just worked harder than everyone else, clients would flock to her and wealth would follow. So she said yes to every project, no matter the low pay or the tight deadline. She routinely pulled all-nighters, fueled by caffeine and the self-congratulatory thought that she was hustling. Her friends and family admired her work ethic, but after 5 years, Sarah was perpetually exhausted. Her income remained modest, and she felt like she was running on a hamster wheel. She was busy, undeniably. She was working hard, unequivocally, but she wasn't getting rich. In fact, she was barely keeping her head above water, constantly stressed about where the next project would come from. Why? Because Sarah was trapped in the time for money cycle. This cycle is the most fundamental and insidious trap of the illusion of hard work. It's a direct exchange, your finite hours for a fixed amount of compensation. Whether you're a salaried employee, an hourly worker, or a freelancer billing by the hour, your income is directly capped by the number of hours you can physically dedicate to work. There are only 24 hours in a day, a finite resource. Even if you stretch yourself to the breaking point, working 12, 14, even 16 hours a day, you will eventually hit an absolute ceiling. Burnout becomes inevitable, creativity dwindles, and your physical and mental health begin to suffer. You become a prisoner of the clock, your entire financial well-being dependent on your perpetual presence and effort. For the salary earner, this is often the most frustrating reality. You work diligently, take on extra responsibilities, arrive early, leave late. You might even secure regular raises, but these raises are often incremental, barely keeping pace with inflation, and certainly not catapulting you into true financial freedom. Your income is tied to your position, your skill set, and the company's predefined pay scales. You might be working incredibly hard, but your income is not directly correlated to the value you create beyond a certain point. It's linked to the time you put in. Many employees find themselves working themselves into the ground, only to realize that their effort primarily serves to increase the company's profits, not their personal net worth. They are exchanging their finite life for a predictable but ultimately limited return. They are diligent cogs in a larger machine, essential, yes, but rarely truly indispensable or leverageable in the same way the owners or architects of that machine are. The small business owner is often just as susceptible, if not more so, to this trap. Take Michael, who opened a charming local coffee shop. He prided himself on making every latte himself, personally greeting every customer, and handling all the inventory, marketing and accounting after hours. He worked 70-80 hours a week, pouring his heart and soul into the business. He was undeniably working hard, but his business couldn't grow beyond his physical presence. If he got sick, the shop suffered. If he wanted a vacation, he lost income. He wasn't a business owner, he was an incredibly well-paid, self-employed barista, glorified by the title of owner, but still firmly entrenched in the time for money exchange. He was stuck, exhausted, and wondering why his monumental effort wasn't translating into the freedom he dreamed of. The fundamental flaw in this harder is better mentality is that it often ignores the power of smart work and, more importantly, leverage. Hard work is about effort. Smart work is about efficiency and effectiveness. It's about asking, what is the most impactful thing I can do right now? It's about focusing on the activities that yield disproportionately high results, rather than just doing more activities. Think of it this way. If you're trying to chop down a tree, hard work means swinging the axe more times, even if it's dull. Smart work means sharpening the axe first. The person with the sharp axe will achieve more with less effort. In the financial world, sharpening your axe means learning, strategizing, optimizing, and building systems that multiply your effort. It means moving beyond merely doing tasks to designing the most effective way for tasks to be done, or better yet, for them to do themselves. This brings us to the profound concept of leverage. Leverage is the ability to amplify your efforts, to generate significant results with relatively less direct input. It's about making your time, your money, your knowledge, or your people work for you rather than just by you. The wealthy understand leverage intrinsically. They don't just work harder, they work smarter by employing leverage in myriad forms. One of the most powerful forms of leverage is people. If you're a business owner like Michael, stuck making every latte, you have zero leverage from people. But if Michael hires and trains skilled baristas, he can now serve more customers, generate more revenue, and take a vacation, all while his employees are generating income for the business. His effort is no longer limited to his own two hands, it's multiplied by the hands of his team. This is true whether you're building a massive corporation or simply outsourcing a small task that frees up your time for higher value activities. The employee who learns to delegate effectively within their role, or the entrepreneur who wisely builds a team, understands that their impact is no longer constrained by their individual capacity. They are leveraging others' time, skill, and energy. Then there's technology and systems. This is the modern-day superpower of leverage. Think about the accountant who used to meticulously balance ledgers by hand. They worked incredibly hard. Now accounting software automates much of that work, allowing them to handle hundreds of clients where before they could only manage a few. This software is leverage. Consider the creator who used to sell physical books one by one. Now they can write an ebook once, upload it to a platform, and it can be purchased by thousands, even millions around the world, generating income long after the initial effort of writing it. The internet, automation tools, software, intellectual property, these are all forms of leverage that allow one unit of effort to generate infinite units of output. This is why many successful ventures today are digital. They are inherently scalable and leverage technology to bypass the time-for-money bottleneck. Another critical form of leverage is capital. While we won't dive into the specifics of investment strategies in this chapter, understand the principle: money can be put to work to generate more money. When you invest your capital wisely, that money works 24/7 without needing your direct time or effort. It earns interest, dividends, or appreciates in value, multiplying itself. This is the ultimate escape from the time-for-money trap. The wealthy don't just save money, they deploy it, leveraging it to create more wealth, thus freeing their own time and energy for higher-level strategic thinking or simply enjoying life. Your capital, once put into motion, becomes a tireless employee. Finally, there's knowledge and information. The expertise you accumulate, the skills you master, and the insights you gain can be leveraged in powerful ways. A consultant who charges a high fee for their specialized knowledge is leveraging years of accumulated expertise. An author who writes a book like this one is leveraging their insights to impact countless readers without needing to personally interact with each one. A speaker delivers a single message that reaches thousands. This form of leverage allows your intellectual capital to generate returns far beyond the initial effort of acquiring that knowledge. It's about packaging your wisdom and distributing it widely rather than just applying it one-on-one. Let's return to Sarah, our talented graphic designer. After years of exhaustion, she finally realized her trap. She started saying no to low-paying, time-consuming projects. Instead, she invested in learning a new skill: creating digital design templates. She spent a month building a library of high-quality, reusable templates for social media, presentations, and websites. This was hard work initially, but it was leveraged work. Once created, these templates could be sold thousands of times over, generating passive income without her needing to spend another minute on them. She also hired a virtual assistant to handle administrative tasks and client inquiries, leveraging someone else's time to free up her own for creative, high-value work. Sarah didn't work harder, she learned to work smarter by embracing leverage. Her income soared and her stress plummeted. Or consider John, a budding entrepreneur who wanted to launch an online course. Initially, he thought he'd have to personally coach every student, which would quickly limit his income. But then he learned about course platforms and automation. He spent months developing a comprehensive video course and building an automated email sequence to nurture students. The upfront work was immense: scripting, filming, editing, setting up the platform. But once done, the course could be sold globally, 24/7, to thousands of students, generating revenue without his constant direct intervention. He leveraged technology and his knowledge. John understood that putting in massive effort once on a scalable system was infinitely more powerful than putting in continuous, unscalable effort. The wealthy rarely, if ever, operate solely in the time-for-money quadrant. They understand its limitations. They view their time as their most precious, non-renewable asset, and they are acutely aware of how they allocate it. They don't just work hard, they strategically deploy their efforts in areas where they can achieve maximum leverage. They build teams, create intellectual property, invest in scalable businesses, and utilize technology to automate and multiply their reach and impact. They are not merely laborers, they are architects, orchestrators, and investors. This doesn't mean they don't work hard, far from it. Building something significant, whether it's a thriving business or a robust investment portfolio, requires immense dedication, perseverance, and often long hours. But their hard work is of a different kind. It's purposeful, directed towards building systems that transcend their individual input. It's the hard work of thinking, planning, leading and strategizing, rather than simply doing every task themselves. It's the hard work of creating assets that eventually generate income independently of their continuous, direct effort. Society, unfortunately, often celebrates busyness as a virtue, confusing frantic activity with genuine productivity. The person who constantly checks emails, attends endless meetings and complains about their overwhelming schedule is often praised for their dedication. But are they actually producing disproportionate results, or are they simply caught in a whirlwind of low-impact tasks? Busyness can be a potent distraction, a way to feel important and productive without actually moving the needle on true wealth creation. It's a comfortable excuse for avoiding the discomfort of strategic thinking, delegation, or confronting the limitations of one's current approach. To escape the illusion of hard work, you must cultivate a new perspective, one rooted in the understanding of leverage and scalability. It requires a fundamental shift in your mindset, echoing back to our discussion in Chapter 1. If your ingrained belief is that your value is solely tied to the hours you put in, you will struggle to embrace leverage. If you fear delegating because you believe no one can do it as well as you can, you will remain trapped. If you are unwilling to invest in technology or systems because of the upfront cost or learning curve, you will forever be limited by your own two hands. This shift means moving from being a worker in the system to becoming an architect of systems. It means constantly asking, how can I get more done with less direct effort? What can I automate? Who can I empower or train to handle this? How can I create something once that can generate value repeatedly? This isn't about being lazy, it's about being profoundly efficient and strategic. It's about designing your life and your financial engine so that your income is decoupled from your time, allowing you the ultimate freedom, the freedom to choose how you spend your precious hours, rather than being forced to trade them for survival. So, are you still conflating hard work with inevitable wealth? Are you still clinging to the idea that sheer brute force will get you where you need to be financially? Are you willing to examine the uncomfortable truth that your exhaustion might be a symptom of a flawed strategy rather than a badge of honor? The journey from financial struggle to abundance requires not just effort, but leveraged effort, a profound understanding of how to multiply your impact. But how do you begin to identify these opportunities for leverage in your own life, to discern between mere busywork and truly productive, scalable action? How do you move from the treadmill of constant effort to the commanding heights of strategic impact, especially when the path ahead isn't always clear? That, my friend, is precisely the question we must tackle next. Chapter 3: Saving is not wealth. We've journeyed through the intricate landscape of the mind, uncovering how limiting beliefs can sabotage our financial destiny. We then peeled back the layers of society's illusion of hard work, revealing that sheer effort alone, without strategy and leverage, can trap us in a relentless cycle of exhaustion and stagnation. Now, as we delve deeper into the mechanics of wealth, prepare for another uncomfortable truth, one that often runs contrary to the well-meaning advice we've received our entire lives. Saving alone will not make you truly wealthy. This statement might strike you as provocative, even irresponsible. After all, isn't saving the cornerstone of financial prudence? Isn't it what our parents, our teachers, and every sensible financial guru has preached since time immemorial? Yes, it is. And saving, let me be unequivocally clear, is absolutely essential. It is the foundation, the starting block, the disciplined act of delaying gratification to secure your future. Without saving, you have no buffer, no emergency fund, and no capital to deploy. It is a necessary habit, a bedrock principle of responsible money management. But herein lies the crucial distinction, the subtle trap that ensnares so many well-intentioned individuals. Saving is a defensive strategy, not an offensive one. It is about protecting what you have, not actively growing it into something substantial. It's like building a strong defensive wall around a small garden. The wall protects the garden, but it doesn't make the garden grow larger, nor does it plant more seeds. For true wealth creation, you need to go beyond mere defense. You need to launch a strategic offense. You need to understand that while saving is a prerequisite, it is merely the opening act. The real show, the one that generates lasting abundance, begins when your money stops sitting still and starts working for you. Let's talk about the silent, insidious enemy that tirelessly works against the diligent saver, inflation. This isn't a dramatic, visible threat like a stock market crash or a sudden job loss. Inflation is a quiet, relentless erosion of your purchasing power. It's like a tiny leak in your financial bucket. You don't notice it immediately, but over time, it drains away the value of your hard-earned money. That $100 you put under your mattress today, or even in a traditional low-interest savings account, will buy you significantly less in 5, 10, or 20 years. Imagine your grandparents telling you how much a loaf of bread, a bottle of milk, or a full tank of petrol used to cost. Their memories aren't exaggerating. The price of goods and services consistently rises over time. If your savings are earning 0.5% interest in a bank account, but inflation is running at 3% or 4% annually, you're not just failing to grow your money, you're actively losing money in real terms. Your purchasing power is diminishing every single day. Your diligently saved nest egg, intended to provide security in retirement or fund a child's education, shrinks in its actual buying power, even as the numerical value on your bank statement remains the same. This isn't theoretical, it's a fundamental economic reality that savvy individuals understand and proactively counteract. Beyond inflation, there are hidden costs associated with money that sits idle. The most significant of these is opportunity cost. Every dollar you save and keep idle is a dollar that isn't being put to work, isn't generating returns, isn't compounding and multiplying itself. It's a soldier sitting in the barracks when it could be out on the battlefield, earning victories for you. This concept is simple yet profoundly overlooked. The opportunity cost of holding cash is the potential profit you could have earned if that money had been invested wisely. Consider a young student, eager to save for their future. They diligently stash away every extra penny, perhaps £50 a month, into a basic savings account. Over 5 years they accumulate a respectable £3,000. They feel proud, and rightly so, of their discipline. However, if that same £50 a month had been invested in a diversified portfolio of growth assets, which we'll explore in much greater detail later, earning a historical average return of, say, 7% annually, that £3,000 could have been closer to 3,600 boys or more without them lifting an additional finger. The difference, though seemingly small initially, compounds exponentially over decades. The cost of keeping that money idle was £600 of lost potential growth. Extend that over a lifetime, and the figure becomes staggering, amounting to hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of lost opportunities. Then there's the psychological cost. For many, the act of saving becomes an end in itself. They become hoarders of cash, deriving comfort from the growing number in their account, but paralyzed by the thought of actually using or deploying that money. This can lead to a kind of financial paralysis, where fear of loss outweighs the desire for growth. They become excellent savers, but never transition into wealth creators. Their money, rather than being a tool for expansion, becomes a security blanket, comforting but ultimately limiting. They prioritize safety over growth, and in the long run, safety alone rarely leads to true abundance. Let me tell you about Mr. Henderson. Mr. Henderson was the epitome of the diligent saver. He worked at the same company for 40 years, never took risks, and saved a significant portion of every paycheck. He lived frugally, drove an old car, and avoided debt like the plague. When he retired, he had a substantial sum in his savings account, let's say $1 million. On paper, he was a success story. He had more money saved than most of his peers. But then the quiet erosion began. Over the next 2 decades of his retirement, inflation continued its relentless march. What $1 million could buy him at 65 was significantly more than what it could buy him at 85. Healthcare costs soared. The cost of living continued to climb. His safe savings account barely kept pace with inflation, sometimes not even. He had the money, numerically, but its purchasing power diminished year after year. He had saved diligently, but he had failed to make his money work as hard as he did. His capital, instead of being a dynamic force for growth, became a slowly deflating balloon. He lived comfortably, yes, but not with the expansive freedom he might have experienced had he understood the principles of wealth creation beyond mere saving. He was a champion saver, but not a true wealth creator. Contrast Mr. Henderson with Mrs. Davies. Mrs. Davies also saved diligently, but her approach was fundamentally different. She understood that money had to flow, like water in a river, to generate power. She took a portion of her savings and invested it into a diversified portfolio of stocks and real estate. She continued to add to these investments regularly, understanding the power of compounding. When recessions hit, she didn't panic and pull her money out. She saw them as opportunities to acquire more assets at a discount. When Mrs. Davies retired, she too had a significant sum, but her money wasn't just sitting there, it was actively growing. Her investments generated passive income through dividends and rental properties. Her capital appreciated in value, far outpacing inflation. She didn't just have $1 million, she had $1 million that was actively working to become 2 million, then 3, then more. She wasn't just defending her financial position, she was launching an aggressive, intelligent offense. Her wealth provided not just comfort, but genuine freedom and optionality for the rest of her life. The core lesson here is that money must flow, it must be invested, it must be put to work in order to truly grow. Think of money not as a static object to be hoarded, but as a seed. If you keep a seed in your hand, it remains a seed. It might stay safe, but it will never grow into a mighty oak tree. To grow, the seed must be planted in fertile ground, nurtured and allowed to blossom. Your savings are those seeds. The investment market, whether it's stocks, real estate, businesses or intellectual property, is the fertile ground. The difference between a saver and a wealth creator lies precisely in this understanding. A saver focuses on accumulation. Their primary goal is to collect and preserve capital. While admirable and necessary as a first step, this focus limits their potential. A wealth creator, on the other hand, sees accumulated capital not as an end, but as a means to an end. They understand that the purpose of saving is to generate more capital, to acquire assets that produce income or appreciate in value. They are not afraid to deploy their money because they understand that sitting idle is often riskier than strategic, educated investment. This paradigm shift is critical for anyone hoping to transcend financial struggle. It means moving beyond the scarcity mindset that tells you to hold on to every penny out of fear and embracing an abundance mindset that recognizes money as a tool, an energy, a resource to be deployed for greater good and greater return. It means developing a keen awareness of what your money is doing at all times. Is it merely sitting in a low-interest account, losing value to inflation, or is it out there, earning its keep, multiplying itself, and contributing to your financial liberation? This is not a call to gamble or to make reckless decisions, far from it. This is a call to financial literacy, to understanding the mechanisms of growth, and to making informed, strategic choices about where your money resides. It means recognizing that an idle dollar is a dollar that's dying a slow death. It's a dollar that is losing its purchasing power, a dollar that is foregoing opportunities to earn more dollars, a dollar that is costing you dearly in terms of lost potential. Let's consider another example, the aspiring entrepreneur. They might save diligently to accumulate startup capital. This is a smart move, but once they have that capital, a true wealth creator will deploy it strategically, investing in product development, marketing, talent and scalable systems, rather than letting it sit in a bank account out of fear of launching. The saver might hold on to the cash for safety, but the wealth creator understands that the highest return on that capital comes from putting it to work to build a profitable venture. The money isn't just there to exist, it's there to be activated. Even for students, this principle holds true. Saving for tuition is vital, but understanding that your education itself is an investment in your human capital designed to increase your earning potential is a deeper realization. And once you earn, saving is merely the first step. The next is to learn how to invest those savings, even small amounts, to counteract inflation and begin building a future financial fortress. The younger you start making your money work, the more powerfully compounding interest works in your favor. The ultimate aim isn't to have a large savings account balance, it's to have a substantial net worth built on assets that generate income and appreciate in value. It's about building a portfolio of investments, be it in businesses, stocks, real estate, or other revenue-generating ventures that eventually produce enough passive income to cover your living expenses, freeing you from the necessity of exchanging your finite time for money. This is true financial freedom, and it cannot be achieved by saving alone. So where is your money right now? Is it diligently tucked away, safe but slowly eroding under the silent hand of inflation? Or is it actively engaged, out there in the marketplace, earning its keep and contributing to your financial liberation? Are you a disciplined saver, or are you evolving into a strategic wealth creator? The answer to this question profoundly impacts your financial trajectory. Because while our institutions and our ingrained beliefs often push us towards the safe, well-trodden path of mere saving, the truly wealthy understand that money, like life itself, is meant to grow, to evolve, and to be deployed with purpose. But how do we acquire the knowledge to effectively deploy this capital? How do we navigate the complex world of investments without risking everything? And why, despite decades of formal schooling, do so many intelligent individuals remain utterly ill-equipped to manage their money, let alone grow it into substantial wealth? This profound disconnect between our extensive education and our pervasive financial illiteracy is not an accident, and understanding its roots is the next vital step on our journey. Chapter 4. The Schooling Lie. In our journey so far, we've unmasked the insidious influence of the poverty mindset trap, revealing how our deepest beliefs, fears, and excuses silently dictate our financial reality. We then tore down the illusion that simply working harder is a guaranteed path to wealth, exposing the critical difference between effort and leverage. And most recently, we confronted the uncomfortable truth that saving alone, while necessary, is a defensive act, perpetually undermined by inflation and lost opportunity, if not paired with active wealth creation. Now we turn our gaze to another powerful, yet largely unexamined force that shapes our financial destinies, the very system designed to prepare us for life. I'm talking about schooling, and here's the stark, often painful truth that few are willing to acknowledge. Formal education, for the most part, is not designed to make you wealthy. It's designed to make you an employee. This isn't an indictment of teachers, who are often dedicated and passionate, nor is it a dismissal of the profound value of knowledge and intellectual development. Education is, without question, the bedrock of a civilized society and personal growth, but we must be brutally honest about its primary function in the context of financial independence. The traditional schooling system, from elementary grades through university, is an immensely effective machine for producing diligent, obedient, and capable workers who can fit seamlessly into existing corporate structures. It teaches you how to follow instructions, how to work within a hierarchy, how to meet deadlines, and how to specialize in a particular field that serves the needs of an employer. It trains you to be a valuable cog in a larger economic machine, but rarely, if ever, does it train you to own the machine, let alone build your own. Think back to your own schooling. When were you taught about compounding interest in a practical, applicable way that truly resonated with the long-term potential of your money? When did you learn about the difference between good debt and bad debt, or how to critically analyze a balance sheet? Was there a mandatory course on passive income streams, or the art of negotiation for business deals, or the psychology of sales and marketing? Did anyone explain the profound difference between assets and liabilities in a way that truly empowered you to build wealth? For the vast majority, the answer is a resounding silence. Instead, we spent years mastering algebra, dissecting Shakespeare, memorizing historical dates, and understanding complex scientific theories, all valuable in their own right, undoubtedly. But for the practical application of building financial freedom, these subjects often left a gaping void. We emerge from decades of formal education, equipped with degrees and certifications, ready to enter the workforce, often with significant student loan debt, yet utterly ill-equipped to manage our personal finances, let alone create wealth independently. This, my friend, is the schooling lie. It's the unspoken agreement that if you get good grades, go to a good university, and land a stable job, prosperity will automatically follow. And while a stable job is certainly a step above poverty, it rarely leads to true financial liberation on its own. The system is set up to create a compliant workforce, from the ringing of bells to signal class changes, to the hierarchical structure of teachers, principals and superintendents, to the emphasis on standardized tests and conformity. The entire environment subtly prepares you for the corporate ladder. You learn to show up on time, complete assignments, conform to rules, and compete for limited positions, grades, scholarships, jobs. These are all skills necessary for being a good employee, but they are not the primary skills required for being an entrepreneur, an investor, or a visionary who reshapes markets and creates wealth. Consider the inherent bias. Students who question authority too much, who think too far outside the box, who challenge established norms, are often labeled disruptive or unfocused. Yet these are precisely the traits often found in successful entrepreneurs and innovators. The system rewards conformity, not independent financial thinking. It prepares you to be a specialist within a predefined framework, not a generalist capable of seeing opportunities across various domains or building entirely new ones. Let's illustrate this with Maria's story. Maria was a diligent student, always excelling in her classes. She followed the prescribed path, excellent grades in high school, followed by a prestigious university degree in a highly sought-after field. She graduated with honors, landed a fantastic entry-level job at a reputable company, and started earning a good salary. She diligently paid off her student loans and began saving. She was, by all accounts, doing everything right, according to the schooling lie. But years into her career, Maria felt a growing unease. Despite her impressive title and comfortable income, she felt financially constrained. Her salary, while good, wasn't growing as fast as her aspirations. She was trading all her waking hours for a fixed sum, trapped in the time for money cycle we discussed. She wanted to buy a home, start a family, and eventually have more freedom, but her savings seemed to crawl along, perpetually outpaced by rising living costs. She realized that while her formal education had made her an excellent employee, it hadn't taught her how to truly build wealth, how to make her money work for her, or how to create income streams independent of her 9-to-5 job. She was educated, intelligent and hard-working, but financially she was still playing small, largely due to the unaddressed gap in her financial knowledge. This isn't to say that a good education isn't valuable for employees. It absolutely is. A specialized skill, a professional qualification, can command a higher salary and greater job security. But for those aspiring to truly transcend financial limitations, to become owners and investors rather than perpetual wage earners, formal schooling often falls short. It equips you with the tools to earn a decent living, but rarely with the blueprint to build a rich life. The fundamental reason for this gap lies in the historical context of mass education. Public education systems largely emerged during the Industrial Revolution, designed to create a compliant and skilled workforce for factories and burgeoning corporations. The goal was to produce employees who could follow instructions, operate machinery, and perform specialized tasks. That foundational model, despite technological advancements, largely remains. It serves the needs of large employers by providing a steady stream of trained talent, but it doesn't serve the individual's highest financial aspiration of complete independence. So, if traditional schooling doesn't provide the essential blueprint for financial freedom, where do you find it? The answer, my friend, lies in self-education. This is where you reclaim your power, where you take personal responsibility for filling the void left by the formal system. Self-education about money, entrepreneurship, and financial strategies is not a luxury. It is an absolute necessity for anyone who genuinely seeks to break free from the cycle of dependency. This means actively seeking out knowledge about personal finance, investing, business models, real estate, and passive income. It means reading books like this one, hopefully, attending seminars, listening to podcasts, taking online courses, and finding mentors who have achieved the financial success you aspire to. It means becoming a diligent student of money, not just during formal hours, but as a lifelong pursuit. This is not rote memorization, it's active learning, critical thinking, and the application of principles that the wealthy have understood and practiced for generations. Let's look at Liam. Liam wasn't a stellar student in school. He barely scraped by. But what he lacked in academic discipline, he made up for in curiosity. After a few years working a dead-end job, he realized he didn't want to be an employee forever. He started devouring every book he could find on entrepreneurship and investing. He spent his evenings and weekends learning about e-commerce, digital marketing, and stock market fundamentals. He didn't have a formal business degree, but he gained a practical, actionable education through his relentless self-study. He started a small online business, made mistakes, learned from them, and eventually built it into a thriving enterprise that provided him with true financial freedom, far exceeding anything his formerly educated peers were earning. Liam understood that the schooling lie was just that, a lie. If you were seeking something beyond a paycheck, self-education doesn't just provide knowledge, it reshapes your mindset. It cultivates an entrepreneurial spirit, a problem-solving approach, and an understanding that opportunities are abundant if you know where to look and how to capitalize on them. It empowers you to think critically about traditional career paths and to explore unconventional avenues for wealth creation. It helps you recognize that your income potential is not capped by an employer's budget, but by your own creativity, persistence, and ability to create value in the marketplace. One of the greatest dangers of being solely reliant on formal schooling for your financial understanding is that it often enforces conformity. You are taught to follow the well-worn path, get a degree, find a job, work your way up, save for retirement. While this path offers a certain level of security, it rarely leads to extraordinary wealth or true freedom. Those who break free from financial limitations are often those who dared to question this conformity, who understood that their education was just the beginning, not the end of their learning journey, especially concerning money. They recognized that wealth is often found in the margins, in the unconventional, in serving needs that the masses overlook, or in leveraging systems that few understand. The education system, with its emphasis on standardized testing and predefined curricula, inadvertently stifles the very traits crucial for wealth creation: risk-taking, independent thinking, innovation, and an understanding of how value is truly created and exchanged in the marketplace. It focuses on imparting facts and processes rather than fostering a dynamic, adaptive financial intelligence. This isn't a conspiracy, it's simply a consequence of the system's design and its historical purpose. So for the student reading this, understand that your formal education is a powerful tool, but it's not the only tool. Supplement it with relentless self-education in personal finance and wealth creation. For the salary earner, recognize that your degree got you the job, but it won't necessarily get you financial independence. That requires a proactive commitment to learning beyond your professional expertise. For the aspiring entrepreneur, don't let a lack of formal business training deter you. The most valuable lessons are often learned in the real world, accelerated by purposeful self-study. And for the business owner, understand that even if you have a great product or service, continuous self-education in financial strategy, market trends, and scaling mechanisms is what will keep your venture thriving and growing, rather than merely surviving. The world of money, unlike the world taught in textbooks, is dynamic, ever-changing, and rewards those who are constantly learning and adapting. It rewards those who understand leverage, compounding, and the true nature of assets and liabilities. These are not concepts typically drilled into us during our formative years. We are often left to stumble through adulthood, learning these critical lessons through trial and error, sometimes at great financial cost. This chapter is a profound challenge to your assumptions about what it means to be educated in a financial sense. It's a call to action. Take charge of your financial education. Do not delegate this responsibility to a system that was never designed to make you financially free. Understand that every hour you invest in learning about money, about markets, about building and scaling, is an investment in your ultimate liberation. It's the most powerful investment you can make, far more impactful than any stock or piece of real estate, because it equips you with the fundamental understanding to navigate all financial opportunities. Are you still clinging to the idea that your school grades or your prestigious degree are sufficient for financial success? Are you ready to admit that perhaps the most crucial lessons were left untaught and that the onus is now entirely on you to seek them out? Because until you embrace the necessity of continuous self-directed financial learning, you risk remaining dependent on a system that dictates your income and limits your potential. And true freedom, my friend, is found only when you step outside the lines drawn by conformity and are willing to venture into the exhilarating, yet sometimes uncomfortable territory of taking full control of your own path. But what is it about this familiar, comfortable path that makes it so hard to leave, even when we know it leads to stagnation? That is where our next conversation begins. Chapter 5. The Comfort Zone. Poison. We have journeyed through the intricate landscapes of the mind, dissecting the poverty mindset trap. We exposed the illusion of hard work, revealing that effort without strategy and leverage is a treadmill to exhaustion, and we confronted the uncomfortable truth that saving is not wealth, highlighting how idle money silently erodes its own value. Most recently, we laid bare the schooling lie, recognizing that formal education primarily trains us to be employees, not independent wealth creators. We closed that last chapter pondering why, even when we know a path is limiting, it's so incredibly hard to leave. The answer, my friend, lies in one of humanity's most potent, yet often unnoticed silent killers of potential, the comfort zone poison. The comfort zone, it sounds so benign, doesn't it? So inviting. A place of familiarity, predictability, and safety. It's where our routines reside, where the known variables eliminate the anxiety of the unknown. For many, it's a small warm cave in a vast cold wilderness, and the idea of stepping out sends a shiver down their spine. But here's the brutal truth. For anyone aspiring to genuine financial freedom and abundance, the comfort zone is not a sanctuary, it is a gilded cage. It is a slow-acting poison that insidiously dulls ambition, stifles innovation, and systematically chokes off opportunities for growth, leaving you trapped in a perpetual state of financial mediocrity or worse, dependency. Think about it. We are creatures of habit, wired for efficiency and survival. Our brains naturally seek patterns, predictability, and the path of least resistance. This evolutionary trait served us well when avoiding saber-toothed tigers, but in the modern financial jungle, it often works against us. Playing it safe, sticking to what's familiar, and avoiding any perceived risk are deeply ingrained behaviors. We convince ourselves that just managing life, getting by, or making enough to pay the bills is a form of success. But in the context of true wealth creation, just managing is the financial equivalent of treading water. You're expending energy, but you're not going anywhere. You're not progressing, you're merely avoiding drowning. Consider Sarah, again, our talented graphic designer from Chapter 2, before she embraced leverage. She was trapped not just by the time for money cycle, but by the comfort zone of being a service provider. She knew how to land freelance gigs. She knew how to deliver designs, and she was comfortable with the process, even if it meant working endless hours for modest pay. The idea of developing digital products, building a team, or scaling her business seemed terrifying. It meant venturing into unknown territory, learning new skills like marketing and sales, managing people, investing upfront capital, and facing the very real possibility of failure. Her comfort zone, while exhausting, felt safe because it was predictable. It was the devil she knew. She knew how to operate within its confines, and the fear of stepping outside, of facing the discomfort of growth, kept her tethered to a level of income that simply didn't match her potential. This fear of risk is a powerful antagonist in our financial lives. It whispers doubts, exaggerates dangers, and creates elaborate scenarios of catastrophic failure. It tells you that starting a business is too risky, that investing is gambling, that negotiating a higher salary will make you look greedy, or that pursuing an unconventional path is foolish. This isn't about reckless abandon or blindly throwing caution to the wind. It's about understanding the fundamental difference between a reckless gamble and a calculated risk. A reckless gamble is playing roulette with your life savings. It's driven by emotion, desperation, or ignorance. A calculated risk, on the other hand, is a decision based on research, analysis, and a clear understanding of potential outcomes. It involves weighing probabilities, mitigating downsides, and having a plan for both success and failure. Building wealth invariably involves taking calculated risks, because growth by its very nature demands moving beyond the known. The stock market involves risk, but historical data shows its long-term growth. Starting a business is risky, but the potential rewards are exponential. Learning a new high-income skill requires an investment of time and effort, with no guaranteed immediate payoff, but it unlocks future opportunities. Let me tell you about Mark. Mark worked for a large, stable corporation for 15 years. He had a decent salary, good benefits, and a predictable career path. He complained about his boss, the bureaucracy, and the slow pace of promotions, but he never truly considered leaving. Why? Because it was comfortable. The paycheck arrived like clockwork. The job was secure. He knew the systems, the people, the unspoken rules. The thought of stepping out, of launching his own venture, or even switching to a different, potentially more demanding company, filled him with dread. He imagined the instability, the loss of benefits, the effort of building something new. His fear of the unknown was so strong that it completely overshadowed his desire for greater freedom and income. He was a prisoner of his own comfort, ironically sacrificing his long-term financial freedom for short-term security. Then, the company announced layoffs. Mark, despite his long tenure, was let go. Suddenly, his safe comfort zone evaporated. Forced out of his shell, he had no choice but to confront the very risks he had avoided. He realized with crushing clarity that his perceived security was an illusion. The real security comes not from a stable job, but from resilience, adaptability, and the ability to create value independently. After a period of intense struggle and forced self-education, Mark, pushed by necessity, finally launched his own consulting business. The irony was, he found immense satisfaction, far greater income, and a level of control he'd never experienced. His comfort zone had poisoned his potential, and it took a crisis to cure him. This resistance to stepping out of the comfort zone isn't just about big, life-altering decisions. It manifests in smaller, daily choices that collectively determine our financial trajectory. It's the reluctance to negotiate a higher salary during a job offer, accepting the first number presented because confrontation is uncomfortable. It's avoiding learning about complex investment vehicles because they seem too intimidating, sticking instead to low-yield savings accounts. It's refusing to market your skills or services aggressively because you fear rejection or appearing salesy. It's clinging to outdated business practices because adapting to new technologies feels too challenging. Each of these small avoidances, driven by a desire for comfort and a fear of the unfamiliar, chips away at your financial potential. The antidote to the comfort zone poison is a willingness to challenge conventional thinking and embrace calculated discomfort. Wealth rarely congregates in the predictable, heavily trafficked avenues. It often lies in the less explored paths, the innovative solutions, and the areas where most people are too afraid or too complacent to venture. This means questioning the status quo, asking why not instead of why. And critically, it means understanding that growth happens at the edge of your comfort zone, not in its center. Think of a personal trainer. To build muscle, you must consistently lift heavier weights than you're comfortable with. If you only lift what feels easy, you'll never grow stronger. Financial muscles work the same way. To grow your wealth, you must consistently take on challenges that stretch your financial understanding, your risk tolerance, and your entrepreneurial spirit. This could mean investing in something slightly outside your typical comfort zone after thorough research, starting a side hustle that requires new skills, or networking with people who operate at a higher financial level than you, even if it feels awkward at first. A prime example is the story of Sarah, a young woman who inherited a small sum of money. Her initial instinct, fueled by fear and a desire for comfort, was to put it all into a traditional savings account. It felt safe, secure, but she remembered reading about inflation and opportunity cost. After much internal debate and extensive research, she decided to allocate a portion of the inheritance into a diversified exchange-traded fund, ETF, that tracked the market. It was uncomfortable. She worried about market fluctuations, but she understood it was a calculated risk, backed by historical data and a long-term perspective. Over the next decade, that portion of her inheritance grew significantly, far outpacing the stagnant returns of her savings account. She had stepped out of her comfort zone, embraced a calculated risk, and unlocked real growth. For business owners, the comfort zone often manifests as a resistance to scaling or delegating. They might be comfortable managing a small team or personally overseeing every aspect of their operation, but the thought of hiring more people, expanding into new markets, or building robust systems fills them with trepidation. They fear losing control, making a bad hire, or overextending themselves. Yet these are precisely the steps necessary to move beyond being self-employed and truly build an enterprise that generates leverage and significant wealth. Breaking free requires confronting these fears, trusting in processes, and embracing the discomfort of empowering others. The truly wealthy, those who have achieved financial mastery, are not necessarily fearless, but they are masters of managing their fear. They understand that fear is a signal, not a stop sign. They distinguish between valid concerns and irrational anxieties. They are adept at taking calculated risks, recognizing that every significant opportunity resides just beyond the perimeter of what feels safe. They prioritize growth over comfort, understanding that stagnation is the ultimate financial danger. They have learned that real security doesn't come from avoiding all risks, but from building resilience, adaptability, and the capacity to rebound from setbacks. This journey out of the comfort zone is often a solitary one. Society, by and large, rewards conformity and playing it safe. Your friends, family, and peers might even subtly or overtly discourage you from taking risks, often out of their own fears or their desire for you to remain within their familiar sphere. This pressure to conform can be a powerful anchor, dragging you back into the mediocrity you're trying to escape. To break free requires a level of conviction and courage that few possess. It requires you to consciously choose discomfort for the sake of long-term growth. So, where is your comfort zone currently poisoning your financial potential? Is it in the job you despise but cling to because it feels secure? Is it in the outdated financial habits you refuse to change? Is it in the opportunities you dismiss because they demand too much effort or carry too much perceived risk? Are you willing to admit that your desire for immediate comfort might be sacrificing your long-term financial freedom? The path to wealth is not paved with ease or absolute certainty. It demands courage, a willingness to learn from failure, and a persistent drive to step beyond what feels familiar. It requires you to make peace with discomfort, to see it not as a threat, but as a sign that you are moving in the right direction. Because until you are willing to leave the stifling confines of your financial comfort zone and venture into the exhilarating, yet sometimes terrifying territory of calculated risk and bold action, you will remain shackled by its invisible chains. But as you begin to break free, you'll find that your circle of influence, and perhaps even your closest relationships, might begin to shift. And understanding who truly supports your financial ascent and who subtly holds you back is another critical, often painful truth we must confront next. Chapter 6. Friends, Enemies, and Poverty Circles. We have relentlessly peeled back the layers of financial stagnation, starting with the insidious poverty mindset trap that dictates our internal narrative. We then shattered the illusion of hard work, revealing that effort without strategy and leverage is a futile treadmill. We journeyed to understand why saving is not wealth, recognizing that idle money quietly diminishes under the relentless hand of inflation. Our last conversation dissected the schooling lie, exposing how formal education, while valuable, often inadvertently trains us for employment rather than for financial sovereignty, and how the comfort zone poison keeps us shackled, preventing us from embracing the calculated risks essential for growth. As you embark on this profound financial transformation, there's another powerful, often overlooked force that dictates your financial destiny: the people you surround yourself with. This isn't about judgment, it's about sober, unvarnished reality. Your friends, your family, your colleagues, your social circles, they are not merely companions for shared moments. They are powerful architects of your reality, subtle shapers of your beliefs, habits, and ultimately, your net worth. They can either be silent cheerleaders on your path to abundance or insidious anchors, subtly, even lovingly, dragging you back into the very mediocrity you are so desperately trying to escape. This chapter will confront the uncomfortable truth that sometimes the people closest to us can be our biggest financial enemies without ever intending to be. Conversely, seeking out and cultivating relationships with the right people can be the most potent accelerator of your financial growth. Let's call these negative influences poverty circles. These are the groups of people whose collective mindset, habits, and conversations subtly but powerfully reinforce scarcity, limitation, and fear. It's not necessarily malice, it's often born of their own unexamined beliefs and experiences. Imagine a group of crabs in a bucket. As soon as one starts to climb out, the others instinctively pull it back down. This crab-in-a-bucket mentality is rampant in poverty circles. When you declare an ambition to start a business, invest in real estate, or pursue a lucrative but unconventional career path, the responses often come in the form of warnings, discouragement, and doubt. That's too risky. What if you fail? Are you sure you're cut out for that? Just be happy with what you have. These aren't necessarily meant to harm you. They often stem from their own fears, their own conditioning, or a subconscious desire for you to remain within the familiar confines of their own comfort zone. Consider the pervasive influence on daily spending habits. You might resolve to save more, to curb impulse purchases, to invest that extra cash. But then your friends suggest a lavish weekend getaway you can't truly afford, or a costly night out every Friday, or pressure you into buying the latest gadget to keep up. Saying no becomes an act of defiance, an uncomfortable departure from the norm. It's easier in the moment to conform, to spend, to postpone your financial goals for the sake of social harmony. Over time, these small acts of conformity erode your discipline, drain your savings, and keep you trapped in a cycle of living paycheck to paycheck. Even if your income is respectable, your financial aspirations become secondary to maintaining your place within the circle. Sarah, our graphic designer, faced this exact challenge. When she decided to pivot from constant freelance gigs to building scalable digital products, her closest friends, mostly fellow creatives, were skeptical. "Are you sure you want to do that? It sounds like so much work for an uncertain payoff. Just focus on client work, it's stable." Every time she shared a small win, there was a subtle hint of envy, a minimizing of her success. When she started declining expensive social outings to save for her business, she was met with playful jabs about being boring or too focused on money. This constant subtle pressure was an anchor, not a support. It made her question her decisions, instilled doubt, and made the already difficult path feel even lonelier. While her friends were genuinely good people, their collective comfort zone and mindset of trading time for money became a barrier to her growth. This insidious influence extends to ambition itself. If your social circle consistently ridicules ambition, dismisses entrepreneurship as greedy, or views wealth as inherently suspicious, your own aspirations will inevitably shrink. You might find yourself tempering your dreams, lowering your sights, or abandoning bold ideas because the social cost of pursuing them feels too high. You might even start to internalize their limiting beliefs, convincing yourself that your grander visions are indeed foolish or unrealistic. Your drive, your innovative spirit, and your willingness to take calculated risks, as we discussed in Chapter 5, are slowly poisoned by the collective apathy or negativity around you. Conversely, imagine the profound power of wealth-driven networks. These are the circles of influence where abundance is the norm, where ambition is celebrated, where ideas are dissected and refined, and where mutual support propels everyone forward. These are not necessarily circles of the already rich. They are circles of the financially enlightened, the growth-oriented, the individuals committed to mastering their financial destinies. In such networks, conversations revolve around opportunities, strategies, and solutions, not complaints about the economy or the latest celebrity gossip. When you share a business idea, you're met with questions like, "How can we make that happen?" or have you considered this approach, or let me connect you with someone who can help. When you face a challenge, you receive advice, encouragement, and perhaps even a helping hand, rather than a chorus of "I told you so." Consider Maria, our highly educated professional from Chapter 4, who felt stuck despite her good job. She consciously decided to seek out new connections. She joined a local entrepreneurship club, attended industry seminars, and sought out mentors who had successfully transitioned from employment to business ownership. Initially, it was uncomfortable. She felt out of her depth, intimidated by the conversations and the confidence of others, but she persisted. Within months, her perspective began to shift. She started hearing new ideas about leveraging skills, building passive income streams, and identifying market gaps. She met individuals who were actively building wealth, not just earning salaries. One mentor, a seasoned investor, took her under his wing, patiently explaining the nuances of different investment vehicles. Another peer shared a successful side hustle model that resonated with her skills. This new network didn't just give her information, it gave her permission to dream bigger, challenged her limiting beliefs, and provided a practical roadmap for action. She found accountability partners who pushed her to take calculated risks. Her ambition, once stifled, began to soar. Her wealth-driven network became her launching pad. The truth is, you are, to a significant extent, the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. This applies not just to your income, but to your mindset, your habits, your aspirations, and your financial outcomes. If your closest associations are content with mediocrity, perpetually complaining, averse to risk, and prioritizing instant gratification over long-term wealth, it becomes incredibly difficult to break free from those patterns yourself. Their gravitational pull is immense. This isn't to say you should abandon your old friends and family. Not at all. Love and loyalty are vital. But it does mean you must become ruthlessly intentional about your time and the influences you allow into your inner circle. It means seeking out additional relationships that align with your financial aspirations. It means consciously curating your environment, filling it with positive, growth-oriented influences. For students, this means actively seeking out clubs or communities focused on entrepreneurship, finance, or innovation, rather than just drifting with the crowd. It means finding older students or professors who embody the financial success you desire and learning from them. For salary earners, it means joining professional groups, attending industry events, or seeking out mentors within your company or industry who have achieved financial independence. It might mean having uncomfortable conversations with friends who constantly drain your resources or your ambition. For aspiring entrepreneurs, building a network of fellow founders, advisors, and potential investors is not a luxury, it's a lifeline. These connections provide not just resources and opportunities, but crucial emotional support, shared experiences, and a sounding board for ideas that your existing social circle might not understand. For established business owners, cultivating a mastermind group or a board of advisors can unlock new levels of growth, providing diverse perspectives and accountability that prevent stagnation. The journey of conscious association can be challenging. It might involve stepping away from familiar routines, saying no to invitations, and actively seeking out new, sometimes intimidating environments. It might mean facing the discomfort of being the odd one out, or enduring subtle criticisms from those who don't understand your new path. But remember our discussion on the comfort zone. Growth happens at the edge of discomfort. The temporary discomfort of reshaping your social circle pales in comparison to the long-term pain of remaining financially constrained by negative influences. You have the power to choose your influences. You have the power to curate your environment. You have the power to consciously build a network that inspires you, challenges you, and propels you toward financial mastery. This isn't about being transactional in your relationships. It's about recognizing that authentic, growth-oriented connections are mutually beneficial and exponentially powerful. So take an honest look around you. Who are the 5 people you spend the most time with? Are they lifting you up, challenging you, and inspiring you towards greater financial heights? Or are they subtly holding you back, reinforcing limiting beliefs and encouraging habits that drain your potential. Are you an active participant in your financial future, including the people you allow to shape it? Because until you are intentional about your associations, your journey to wealth will remain an uphill battle against invisible currents. And often these currents, subtly influenced by our circles, lead us down a path of financial convenience, one that might feel easy in the short term but becomes a heavy burden in the long run. And nowhere is this burden more apparent than in the insidious trap of debt. Chapter 7. The Debt Addiction. Why do some people borrow endlessly, always feeling behind, forever chasing the tail of their repayments, yet never truly get ahead? While others, seemingly playing the same game, use debt not as a burden, but as a powerful lever, multiplying their wealth and accelerating their journey to financial freedom. This isn't a trick question. It points to one of the most misunderstood and misused forces in personal finance: debt. For the vast majority, debt is a four-letter word, a financial straitjacket, a source of stress, sleepless nights, and perpetual limitation. It's a weight that presses down, slowly suffocating financial dreams. We are taught to avoid it, to pay it off, to fear it, and rightly so, for most forms of debt, as commonly used, are indeed destructive. But to truly understand why so many remain financially tethered, we must move beyond this simplistic view and dissect debt not as a monolithic evil, but as a neutral tool, one that can either be a wrecking ball or a building block, depending entirely on the hand that wields it. The distinction, though seemingly subtle, is profound: the difference between good debt and bad debt. This is not merely a matter of semantics, it is the fundamental dividing line between those who are imprisoned by their borrowing and those who are propelled to prosperity by it. Most people are addicted to bad debt, unaware of its subtle poisons, while the financially savvy recognize and strategically employ good debt. Let's begin with the pervasive and destructive nature of bad debt. This is borrowing money to consume, to purchase depreciating assets, or to fund a lifestyle beyond your means. Think credit card balances carried month to month, loans for new cars that lose value the moment they're driven off the lot, or personal loans taken out to cover lavish vacations or designer clothes. These forms of debt are almost universally insidious because they fund liabilities, not assets. They create an immediate gratification that quickly turns into a long-term burden. Imagine young Alex, fresh out of university, eager to impress his new colleagues. He sees them driving flashy cars and wearing expensive watches. He feels the pressure to keep up, so he takes out a car loan for a vehicle far beyond his means and starts accumulating credit card debt to fund nights out and new wardrobes. The immediate thrill is intoxicating. He feels successful, part of the club, but beneath the surface, a silent financial killer is at work. The car depreciates rapidly, losing thousands in value each year, while the loan demands hefty monthly payments with interest. His credit card balances swell, and the high interest rates mean a significant portion of his minimum payments goes directly to the bank, not towards reducing the principal. Alex is now caught in the endless repayment cycle. A significant chunk of his hard-earned salary, which we'll discuss in the next chapter, is immediately diverted to service this debt. He works harder, not to build wealth or secure his future, but merely to satisfy the demands of his past consumption. Every month, the weight of these repayments diminishes his disposable income, restricts his ability to save or invest, and slowly erodes his financial freedom. He's trapped, not by a lack of income, but by a surplus of bad debt. He borrowed to consume, and consumption, by its very nature, does not generate a return, it only generates expense. This cycle is amplified by the deceptive ease of access to bad debt. Credit cards are pushed relentlessly, offering tempting introductory rates and seemingly endless limits. Payday loans promise quick fixes for emergencies, but ensnare borrowers in crippling interest rates. Buy now, pay later schemes normalize instant gratification for even small purchases, blurring the lines between wants and needs and encouraging overspending. Society, through its marketing and cultural norms, often glorifies instant gratification and the appearance of wealth, making it incredibly easy to fall into the trap of borrowing to consume. This isn't just a financial problem, it's a psychological one, often fueled by the comfort zone poison we discussed in Chapter 5 and the desire to keep up with one's social circle, which we explored in Chapter 6. Bad debt often stems from a lack of financial education, a desperate need for instant gratification, or a misguided attempt to project an image of success. It's borrowing out of necessity for non-essential items, or out of desire for things that offer no long-term financial benefit. It creates a negative cash flow, where money is constantly flowing out of your pocket to pay for things that are losing value, rather than flowing into your pocket from assets that are gaining value. It is the antithesis of wealth creation. Now, let's pivot to the powerful, often misunderstood concept of good debt. This is borrowing money strategically to acquire appreciating assets, or to invest in ventures that generate more income than the cost of the debt. This is how the wealthy operate. They don't shy away from debt. They embrace it, but with precision and purpose. Think of it as leveraging OPM, other people's money. When used wisely, debt allows you to control a larger asset than you could afford outright, amplifying your potential returns. The most common and accessible example of good debt for many is a mortgage on a primary residence. While a home might not always be a pure investment, there are expenses like property taxes and maintenance. It generally appreciates over the long term, and your monthly payments build equity, converting a liability into an asset. The debt allows you to own a significant asset for a fraction of its upfront cost. But the true power of good debt shines in the realm of investment properties or business expansion. Consider Maria, a keen investor we met in earlier chapters. She identifies a rundown property in a desirable neighborhood. She sees its potential to be renovated and rented out. She doesn't have the full cash amount. Instead, she takes out a calculated loan, a mortgage specifically for an investment property. The interest rate on this loan is fixed, say 5%. Once renovated, she rents the property for an amount that not only covers the mortgage payment, property taxes and maintenance, but also generates a positive cash flow. Meanwhile, the property value appreciates over time. In this scenario, Maria has used good debt. She borrowed money to acquire an asset, the rental property that RIMIT. 1. Generates income. The rent covers expenses and provides profit. 2. Appreciates in value. The property increases in worth over time. 3. Provides leverage. She controls a $300,000 asset with only a $60,000 down payment, using 20% equity, effectively multiplying her potential return on her own invested capital. Her debt is effectively being paid by her tenants, and she is building wealth through asset appreciation and positive cash flow. The interest on her debt becomes a business expense, potentially offering tax advantages. This is debt working for her, not against her. Similarly, an entrepreneur who takes out a loan to expand a profitable business, buy new machinery that increases production capacity, or invest in a marketing campaign that will generate significantly more sales, is using good debt. The loan allows the business to grow faster than it could, using only retained earnings, and the increased profits from the expansion far outweigh the cost of borrowing. This is the essence of strategic borrowing, using external capital to accelerate growth and generate a return that far exceeds the interest paid. The wealthy understand that debt, when used correctly, is a tool for multiplication and acceleration. They don't borrow to consume, they borrow to invest, to acquire assets, to scale operations, and to create additional income streams. They look at the return on investment, ROI, that the borrowed money can generate. If the ROI is significantly higher than the interest rate on the debt, then borrowing makes logical sense. They understand that a dollar borrowed at 5% that can be invested to generate 10% is a smart financial move. It's like borrowing a shovel to dig for gold. If you know where the gold is, the cost of the shovel is negligible compared to the treasure you unearth. It requires financial literacy, discipline, and a clear understanding of asset-building principles. It requires distinguishing between a desire for instant gratification and a strategic long-term vision. It also requires the ability to assess risk and make informed decisions, something we touched upon in the comfort zone chapter. The fear of debt for the wealthy is not about avoiding it entirely, but about avoiding bad debt and mastering the art of deploying good debt. Let's illustrate with another story, this time involving a small business owner named David. David ran a successful local bakery. He was making a decent living, but his capacity was limited by his small ovens and cramped kitchen. He dreamed of expanding, of adding a catering service, but he didn't have the upfront cash for a larger space and new equipment. His initial instinct, born from a lifetime of being told to avoid debt, was to save every penny until he had enough. But that would take years during which his business remained stagnant and his competitors grew. A mentor, someone David had connected with through his wealth-driven network as discussed in Chapter 6, challenged his mindset. David, his mentor said, "You're sitting on a gold mine. Your product is in demand. Why limit your growth when you can leverage capital?" After rigorous financial planning, David took out a calculated business loan. He secured a larger kitchen space, invested in state-of-the-art ovens, and hired more staff. The loan had a monthly payment, yes, but the increased production capacity and the new catering contracts generated significantly more revenue, far exceeding the loan's cost. David used debt to expand an income-generating asset, his business, and multiply his wealth, rather than diminish it. He went from being a comfortable but limited local baker to the owner of a thriving, expanding enterprise. The crucial lesson is that your attitude and approach to debt can either imprison you or propel you toward wealth. For most people, debt is an emotional response, a quick fix for a pressing need, or a desire for immediate pleasure. It's a reactive tool. For the wealthy, debt is a strategic weapon, a calculated decision made with a clear financial objective to acquire assets that generate more value than the debt costs. It's a proactive tool. To shift your relationship with debt, you must first acknowledge its dual nature. Then you must commit to a fundamental re-education. This means 1. Eliminating bad debt. Prioritize paying off high-interest consumer debt, credit cards, personal loans for consumption with aggressive strategies. This is liberating, freeing up your cash flow. 2. Understanding asset versus liability. Before borrowing, ask yourself, is this purchase going to put money in my pocket, an asset, or take money out of my pocket, a liability? 3. Calculating ROI. If considering good debt, rigorously calculate the potential return on investment. Will the asset you're acquiring generate enough income or appreciation to comfortably cover the debt payments and provide a substantial profit? 4. Minimizing interest rates. Always seek the lowest possible interest rates for any necessary borrowing. 5. Using debt as leverage, not a crutch. Never borrow just because you can. Borrow when it serves a clear wealth-building purpose. This requires discipline, patience, and a willingness to delay gratification, traits that often stand in stark contrast to the prevalent consumer culture. It requires you to consciously resist the urge to buy depreciating assets on credit and instead cultivate the patience to save for them, or better yet, invest in assets that will eventually pay for them. It's about being an investor in your own future, not just a consumer of your present. So, take a moment to look at your own financial landscape. What kind of debt do you carry? Is it the heavy, suffocating weight of consumption-driven liabilities, or the strategic, empowering leverage of wealth-generating assets? Are you a prisoner of your past spending, or are you a master of financial acceleration? The answer to that question profoundly impacts your ability to escape the treadmill. Because if your primary source of income keeps you beholden to debt, unable to build assets, and trapped in a relentless exchange of your time for limited money, then we must confront the next uncomfortable truth, a truth often masked by security and social expectation, but which can be the biggest barrier to true financial freedom: the very nature of your salary. Chapter 8. The Enemy Called Salary. Why do so many bright, hard-working and well-intentioned people dedicate their entire adult lives to working tirelessly every month, only to find themselves perpetually stuck financially despite earning a steady salary? It's a question that perplexes millions, a riddle that keeps countless individuals tethered to a grind that feels more like a treadmill than a path to freedom. They follow all the rules, they show up, they perform, they even advance, yet true financial security and the kind of abundance that liberates remains frustratingly out of reach. The answer, my friend, lies in an uncomfortable truth that society rarely speaks aloud. Your salary, in its purest, most traditional form, can be a silent enemy, a gilded cage that subtly but effectively limits your wealth potential. Now, before you accuse me of radicalism or dismiss this as naive idealism, understand this: a salary is not inherently evil. It provides stability, predictability, and a foundation upon which to build. For many, it's a necessary step, a crucial bridge from immediate need to the potential for something more. But for those who aspire to true financial freedom, to move beyond merely getting by or managing, relying solely on a salary is often a profound limitation, a subtle form of dependency that keeps you perpetually beholden to someone else's vision, someone else's company, and someone else's financial goals. It creates a ceiling, a cap on your income and your time that few ever truly break through. Think back to our discussion on the illusion of hard work in Chapter 2. We touched on the time for money cycle, the direct exchange of your finite hours for a fixed compensation. The salary is the epitome of this exchange. You are literally selling slices of your life, your skills, and your energy for a predetermined price. No matter how valuable your skills, how crucial your contribution, or how many extra hours you put in, your income is ultimately capped by the company's budget, its pay scales, and the perceived value of your role within its hierarchy. There's only so much they're willing to pay for your time, regardless of the exponential value you might create for them. Consider Maria, a highly skilled software engineer. She earns a fantastic salary, far more than many of her peers. She works diligently, consistently delivers high-quality code, and is a vital asset to her company. She lives comfortably, but she's constantly aware that her income, while significant, is still constrained. She can work more hours, but there's a physical limit, and even then, overtime pay only stretches so far. She can push for promotions, but those are often tied to years of service, internal politics, and the availability of higher positions. Her worth is assessed by her employer, and her financial growth is dictated by their decisions, not solely by her own capacity or desire. She's earning a great income, but she doesn't own the profit centers. She doesn't control the intellectual property. She doesn't directly benefit from the exponential growth of the company she helps build beyond her salary and maybe some modest stock options. She is a highly valued employee, but fundamentally, she is still a dependency unit within someone else's financial ecosystem. This brings us to the illusion of security that a salary often provides. In Chapter 5, we discussed how the comfort zone can be a poison. A steady salary often creates the ultimate comfort zone. It provides a consistent stream of income, making it easy to fall into a routine, to plan your life around a predictable paycheck, and to avoid the perceived risks of entrepreneurship or investing. But as countless global events and economic shifts have shown us, job security is often a fragile concept. Companies restructure, industries evolve, technologies disrupt, and economic downturns lead to layoffs. Suddenly, that seemingly secure paycheck vanishes, leaving individuals utterly exposed, with no alternative income streams and often limited financial reserves. The security was an illusion, the dependency was real. The truth is, true security comes not from a single source of income controlled by an employer, but from diversification and ownership. It comes from having multiple income streams, from owning assets that generate money for you whether you work or not, and from having the skills and resilience to create value independently. A salary, by itself, creates a single point of failure in your financial life. This leads us to the critical distinction between being an employee and being an owner. An employee sells their time and skills for a salary. An owner, on the other hand, acquires or creates assets that generate income independently. These assets can be businesses, real estate, intellectual property, investments in stocks or bonds, or any other venture that produces cash flow or appreciates in value without requiring your constant direct labor. This is the foundational principle that separates the financially free from the perpetually paycheck dependent. Consider the journey of an aspiring entrepreneur, like David, our baker from Chapter 7. Before he expanded, he was essentially a highly skilled employee of his own bakery. He earned a good living, but his income was capped by his own capacity to bake and serve. When he took on strategic debt to expand, he moved from being just a worker to becoming an owner who leveraged capital and people. His new ovens and expanded space became assets. His hired staff became leverage, as discussed in Chapter 2. He was no longer just trading his time for money. He was building a system that could generate income even when he wasn't physically present. He became an orchestrator, an owner of a profit-generating machine rather than just a laborer within it. This is the essence of entrepreneurship as liberation. It's the path to becoming an owner, to controlling your own income potential, and to building something that can ultimately provide genuine financial freedom. It means shifting your mindset from asking, "How can I earn a higher salary?" to "How can I create value that is scalable and generates passive or semi-passive income?" It means moving from a consumer of opportunities to a creator of opportunities. Entrepreneurship, however, is not without its challenges. It demands courage, as explored in Chapter 5, resilience, relentless self-education, Chapter 4, and a willingness to embrace calculated risks. It often involves periods of significant effort without immediate financial reward, a stark contrast to the predictability of a salary. But for those who embrace it, the potential for uncapped income, for true leverage, and for profound personal fulfillment is unparalleled. It teaches you about problem solving, market demands, and how to build systems that work for you. It empowers you to tap into your true earning potential, unconstrained by an employer's budget. Beyond direct entrepreneurship, the path to financial freedom for many involves creating multiple streams of income. Relying on a single salary is inherently risky. What happens if that job disappears? What if your income stagnates? What if illness or unforeseen circumstances prevent you from working? The answer for most is financial distress. The financially savvy, however, understand the power of diversification. They build several smaller rivers of income that flow into their financial lake, providing resilience and accelerating their wealth accumulation. These multiple streams don't always require you to quit your job. They can start as side hustles, passion projects, or strategic investments. Perhaps it's rental income from a property, leveraging good debt, as in Chapter 7. Perhaps it's royalties from a book, a course, or digital products, leveraging knowledge and technology from Chapter 2. Perhaps it's a small online business that runs with minimal intervention. Each additional stream, no matter how small at first, reduces your reliance on a single paycheck and brings you closer to true financial independence. Consider Lena, a dedicated teacher. She loved her profession, but her salary, while steady, was limited. She realized she couldn't rely solely on it for the financial future she envisioned. Leveraging her passion for learning, she spent her evenings developing online educational resources. Initially, it was just a hobby, generating a few extra dollars. But as she consistently created valuable content and learned about digital marketing through self-education, of course, her online business grew into a significant source of additional income. This wasn't just side money, it was an asset she owned, generating passive income while she slept, while she taught, and eventually enough income to give her the financial freedom to pursue her teaching with even greater joy, knowing her livelihood wasn't solely dependent on her school district's budget. Lena didn't quit her job immediately. She built a bridge of multiple income streams that eventually gave her genuine choice. The mindset shift required to move from salary dependence to wealth through ownership is profound. It means moving from a mindset of being paid for your time to being rewarded for the value you create and the assets you own. It means understanding that true wealth is not accumulated by working more hours for someone else, but by building and owning things that work for you. It means shifting from an employee mentality, where your goal is to be indispensable to your employer, to an owner mentality, where your goal is to build systems and assets that can thrive independently of your constant direct input. This is not a call to quit your job tomorrow, far from it. For many, a salary is an essential starting point, a source of capital to begin building assets and experimenting with entrepreneurial ventures. But it is a call to view your salary strategically as a means to an end, not the end itself. It's a tool to fund your escape, to fuel your self-education, to invest in your future, and to build the leveraged income streams that will eventually liberate you from its confines. It's about recognizing that the predictability of a paycheck, while comforting, can also be a subtle change that keeps you from truly soaring. So where do you stand with your salary? Is it a comfortable routine that limits your ambition? Is it the sole pillar of your financial existence, leaving you vulnerable to external shifts? Are you using it strategically to build assets and diversify your income, or is it merely funding your consumption, trapping you in a cycle of endless work for a static return? Because until you confront your relationship with your salary and truly understand its dual nature as both a foundation and a potential limitation, you will remain tied to its cap, unable to unlock the full potential of your financial destiny. And the journey to break free, to truly become a master of your financial fate, demands a fundamental transformation in your entire way of thinking, a shift that is at the heart of how the truly wealthy approach every aspect of their lives. Chapter 9. The wealthy think differently. Why do some people seem to stumble upon opportunities everywhere they look, effortlessly spotting gaps in the market, envisioning solutions where others see only problems, and turning everyday situations into pathways to prosperity? While others, equally intelligent and hard-working, walk through the very same world and barely notice anything beyond their immediate tasks and daily struggles. This isn't a matter of luck, or even sheer intellect. It's a profound difference in perspective, a fundamental shift in the very way their minds process reality. This is the heart of what separates those who build lasting wealth from those who remain financially stagnant. The wealthy don't just act differently, they think differently. We've already stripped away many illusions in our journey together. We've unearthed the poverty mindset trap that holds so many captive, dispelled the illusion of hard work that misdirects effort, learned why saving is not wealth in itself, confronted the schooling lie that inadvertently trains us for dependency, escaped the comfort zone poison that stifles growth, recognized the insidious influence of poverty circles, and exposed the enemy called salary as a potential ceiling on our financial freedom. Now it's time to stitch these insights together by understanding the overarching mental framework that allows true wealth creators to transcend these limitations and build extraordinary financial lives. This isn't about some secret handshake or a hidden cabal. It's about a distinct way of perceiving the world, of approaching challenges, and of making decisions. Or it's a cognitive architecture, refined through practice and intentional cultivation, that allows them to consistently identify, leverage and multiply resources in ways that the average person simply doesn't comprehend. Let's begin with time. For the average person, time is often viewed as a commodity, a unit to be spent or traded. They talk about killing time, passing the time, or putting in their hours at work. Their focus is often on consuming time with entertainment, distractions, or simply enduring it until the next paycheck or weekend. They prioritize immediate gratification, exchanging their present moments for fleeting pleasures, or for a salary that compensates them only for the time they've already expended. This mindset leads to perpetual busyness without commensurate progress, a feeling of being constantly behind, and an inability to build anything substantial that compounds over the long term. Their view of time is linear, a finite resource that drains away. The wealthy, however, view time as their most precious, non-renewable asset. They don't spend time, they invest it. Every minute, every hour is a strategic deployment towards creating future value, building systems, acquiring knowledge, or cultivating relationships that will yield exponential returns. They understand the power of delayed gratification, not just with money but with time. They are willing to dedicate hours, days, even years to building an asset, learning a skill, or nurturing a venture that will eventually generate income and freedom independently of their direct, ongoing effort. Their focus is on leverage, How can 1 hour of my time today create 1,000 hours of value tomorrow? They think in terms of compounding time, not just compounding money. This is why you often find them reading, strategizing, networking, or working on their businesses late into the night, not out of a desperate need for more hours, but out of a profound understanding that this invested time will yield immense future dividends. Consider James and Alex. James works a 9-to-5 job, and every evening he spends 3 hours watching TV, playing video games, and scrolling social media. He feels like he needs to relax after a hard day. Alex, also working a full-time job, dedicates those same 3 hours to learning about real estate investing, researching potential properties, and building a network of industry professionals. 5 years later, James is still working his 9-to-5, complaining about his limited income. Alex, however, has acquired 3 rental properties that generate passive income and has developed the expertise to transition into full-time real estate. Both had the same 24 hours. Their difference in outcome was a direct result of how they thought about and invested their time. Next, let's talk about risk. For most people, risk is a terrifying specter, something to be avoided at all costs. The fear of failure, the pain of loss, the shame of public embarrassment. These emotions are so powerful that they often lead to complete inaction. People prioritize perceived safety and predictability above all else, even if that means remaining in financial mediocrity, the comfort zone poison we discussed. They see investing as gambling, entrepreneurship as too risky, and stepping outside the traditional career path as irresponsible. This risk aversion keeps them tethered to a limited existence, unable to seize opportunities that demand a leap of faith. The wealthy, on the other hand, understand that risk is an inherent component of growth. They don't eliminate risk, they master it. They differentiate between a reckless gamble and a calculated risk. A reckless gamble is driven by emotion or ignorance, with unclear odds and potentially catastrophic downsides. A calculated risk is based on research, due diligence, and a clear understanding of probabilities. They ask, what's the worst that can happen? Can I recover from that? What's the best that can happen? Is the potential reward worth the acceptable downside? They seek asymmetrical bets, where the potential upside far outweighs the potential downside. They understand that failure is not an end, but a crucial data point, a learning opportunity that brings them closer to success. They don't fear failure, they fear inaction, the regret of not trying. This perspective allows them to embrace innovation, invest in emerging markets, and launch ventures that others deem too perilous. Think of an entrepreneur launching a new tech startup. The average person sees only the monumental risk of failure, the potential loss of capital and time. The wealthy thinker sees the massive market potential, the solvable problem, and the opportunity to create immense value. They meticulously research the market, build a minimum viable product, raise capital, often using good debt as we explored, and iterate rapidly. They know many startups fail, but they also know that the ones that succeed can generate life-changing wealth. Their focus isn't on avoiding risk, but on managing and mitigating it, and most importantly, on leveraging it for outsized returns. Now let's consider money itself. For many, money is a means to an end, a tool for immediate consumption, to pay bills, or to acquire liabilities that bring fleeting satisfaction. It's a source of stress when it's scarce, and often a trigger for impulsive spending when it's abundant. Their primary financial focus is on managing expenses, surviving paycheck to paycheck, and perhaps saving small amounts out of fear of destitution. This mindset keeps them on a perpetual consumption treadmill, where money comes in only to go out, never truly accumulating or growing into substantial wealth. The wealthy, by contrast, view money as a tool for creation, leverage, and accumulation of assets. They understand that money is a seed. If you spend all your seeds on immediate consumption, you'll never have a harvest. If you plant your seeds, invest, nurture them, manage your investments, and let them multiply, compound, you can create an entire forest. Their focus is not primarily on spending money, but on deploying it. They prioritize acquiring assets, businesses, real estate, stocks, intellectual property that generate more money, cash flow, or appreciate in value. They see money as a resource to be put to work, an employee that never sleeps. They understand the difference between passive income and earned income, always striving to build streams of money that flow to them whether they are actively working or not. Consider the story of a young person, Daniel, who gets a bonus at work. His friends immediately suggest a lavish vacation or a new high-tech gadget. His first instinct might be to join them, to enjoy the fruits of his labor instantly. This is the consumer mindset. However, if Daniel has cultivated a wealthy mindset, he might instead consider using a portion of that bonus as a down payment on a small rental property, or investing it in a diversified index fund. He understands that while the vacation offers temporary pleasure, the investment offers long-term freedom. He views the money not as a reward for past effort to be consumed, but as capital for future growth to be deployed. Finally, let's look at opportunities. Most people see problems and obstacles. A rising cost of living is a problem. A competitive job market is a problem. A new technology is a threat. They wait for opportunities to be presented to them. A job opening, a promotion, a handout. They often lament their circumstances, feeling powerless in the face of external forces. This scarcity mindset blinds them to the vast possibilities that exist around them. The wealthy, however, are constantly on the lookout for solutions, possibilities, and unmet needs. They see problems as invitations to innovate, obstacles as challenges to overcome, and new technologies as tools for creation. They don't wait for opportunities, they actively seek them out, create them, or recognize them where others see nothing. They understand that every problem in the world represents an opportunity to create value and subsequently wealth. They are proactive, not reactive. They ask what's missing, what pain point can I solve, how can I create something better, faster, or cheaper. Imagine two individuals reacting to the rise of social media. One person, a typical consumer, sees it as a platform for entertainment, distraction, and perhaps a way to connect with friends. They spend hours scrolling, consuming content. Another person, with a wealthy mindset, sees social media as a powerful tool for marketing, for building communities, for reaching customers, and for delivering value at scale. They might learn how to run targeted ads, create engaging content, or build an online business around the platform. The platform is the same. Their perception and utilization of it are vastly different, leading to wildly divergent financial outcomes. One consumes, the other creates and leverages. This fundamental difference in thinking permeates every aspect of a wealthy person's life, from their daily habits to their long-term strategic planning. Their decision-making is not driven by immediate comfort or fear of loss, but by a clear vision of their long-term financial goals and a commitment to continuous growth. They are disciplined in their choices, understanding that small, consistent actions, guided by the right mindset, lead to monumental results over time. They don't make excuses, they find solutions. They don't blame, they take responsibility. They don't complain, they create. This isn't about being born with a silver spoon or a superior intellect. It's about a cultivated perspective, a learned way of engaging with the world that allows them to extract maximum financial value from their efforts, their resources, and their time. It's about consciously choosing to adopt a framework of abundance, a willingness to see beyond the obvious, and a relentless drive to solve problems and create value. It's a mindset that prioritizes growth over comfort, investment over consumption, and ownership over dependency. So, how do you think about time, risk, money, and opportunities? Are you stuck in the conventional patterns of thought that keep so many financially constrained, or are you ready to embrace the paradigm shifts that characterize the truly wealthy? Are you willing to challenge your own ingrained perceptions, to seek out new ways of seeing the world, and to transform your thinking from a consumer of resources into a creator of value? Because until you deliberately cultivate this mindset, until you rewire your brain to see possibilities where you once saw limitations, the path to true wealth will remain obscured. And this transformation, this profound shift, begins with a critical decision to stop merely consuming and to start creating. Chapter 10. From Consumer to Creator. Why do some people seem to spend their entire lives endlessly consuming, chasing the fleeting high of the latest purchase, reacting to every trend, and perpetually relying on the products and services created by others. While all around them, another group of individuals, often starting from nothing, are diligently creating, building, innovating and multiplying wealth, seemingly out of thin air. This profound divergence in financial destiny stems from a fundamental, yet often overlooked distinction in their very approach to the world, the difference between a consumer mindset and a creator mindset. We've traversed through critical landscapes in our journey. We exposed the poverty mindset trap, where limiting beliefs dictate our reality. We dismantled the illusion of hard work, revealing that effort without leverage is often futile. We learned why saving is not wealth in itself, and why money must flow to truly grow. We recognized the schooling lie, understanding that formal education primarily prepares us for employment, not ownership. We confronted the comfort zone poison, the subtle sedative that stifles growth, and we acknowledged the insidious influence of poverty circles. Most recently, we laid bare the enemy called salary, recognizing its potential to cap our financial freedom if it remains our sole source of income. Now, it's time to weave these threads together and uncover the single most transformative shift you can make, moving from consumer to creator. For the vast majority, life is a perpetual act of consumption. We consume entertainment, news, food, fashion, technology, experiences, and opinions. We are bombarded, from the moment we wake until we close our eyes, with messages urging us to buy, to upgrade, to replace, to indulge. Our economies are largely built on this cycle of consumption, and society subtly, yet powerfully, conditions us to be efficient consumers. This isn't inherently wrong. Consumption is necessary for survival and enjoyment. But when consumption becomes the dominant mode of engagement with the world, it becomes a powerful barrier to wealth creation. Poverty, in many of its manifestations, thrives on this consumption-driven existence. It fosters instant gratification, a relentless pursuit of immediate comfort or pleasure that often comes at the expense of long-term financial security. Think of the person who gets a bonus and immediately splurges on a luxury item that depreciates rapidly rather than investing it, or the individual who constantly upgrades their phone, their car, their wardrobe, even when existing items are perfectly functional, driven by the desire to keep up or alleviate a fleeting feeling of inadequacy. This cycle drains resources, creates debt, as we explored in Chapter 7, and ensures that money, when it comes in, flows right back out, leaving little behind to accumulate or grow. The consumer mindset is passive. It waits for solutions to be provided, products to be offered, and entertainment to be delivered. It focuses on what can be bought, rather than what can be built. It sees problems as inconveniences to be complained about, rather than opportunities to be solved. This approach keeps people dependent on their employers for income, dependent on credit for purchases, dependent on existing markets for opportunities. They are constantly reacting to the external world, rather than actively shaping their internal and external financial landscapes. Let me tell you about Mark. Mark loved technology. He was always among the first to buy the latest smartphone, the newest gaming console, the most advanced smart home devices. He'd spend hours researching reviews, comparing models, and then proudly display his new acquisitions. He was a perfect consumer, engaged, enthusiastic, and perpetually upgrading. But despite a decent salary, Mark was always broke by the end of the month. His credit card balances grew, funding these must-have purchases. He was working hard, but his money was flowing out as fast as it came in, consumed by his desire for the latest gadgets. He had convinced himself that his passion for technology meant he had to own the latest innovations, never pausing to consider how he might create something with or for technology that would bring money in. He was, unknowingly, trapped in the consumption current. Contrast this with the mindset and habits of wealth creators. Their primary mode of engagement is not consumption, but production. They are driven by the impulse to build, to solve, to develop, to offer value to others. They see problems not as personal burdens, but as market opportunities. They ask, "What can I create that people need or want? How can I solve a pain point? What service can I offer that improves someone's life or business? What product can I develop that adds real value? This doesn't necessarily mean launching a massive corporation. It can start small. It's the hobbyist who starts selling their unique crafts online. It's the professional who identifies a training gap in their industry and develops a course to fill it. It's the individual who sees a local need and creates a small business to address it. It's the person who learns to code and builds a simple app that solves a common problem. The common thread is the shift from "what can I buy" to "what can I build or provide." Consider Sarah, our graphic designer, whom we met in Chapter 2 and Chapter 6. She was initially a pure consumer of freelance gigs, always waiting for clients to approach her. Her shift began when she started creating her own products, digital templates that could be sold repeatedly. She saw a common need among small business owners for professional, ready-to-use design assets. Instead of just waiting to be hired for one-off projects, she invested her time, a precious asset, as we learned in Chapter 9, into creating a product that could generate income passively. She moved from consuming client briefs to creating a product line. This fundamentally changed her financial trajectory. She wasn't just earning money, she was building an asset, an independent income stream that decoupled her time from her earnings. This transition from consumer to creator is foundational for true financial independence because it shifts your focus from expense to income, from liability to asset. When you consume, you spend. When you create, you generate income and potentially build assets. Every product you develop, every service you offer, every problem you solve for others has the potential to become a stream of income and a building block of wealth. For salary earners, this means looking beyond your job description. What unique skills do you possess? What problems do you see in your workplace or community that you could solve on the side? Could you freelance a specialized skill, offer consulting, or teach a class based on your expertise? It's about leveraging your existing knowledge and experience, as discussed in Chapter 2, to generate additional value outside your primary employment. It's about recognizing that your salary is a starting point, not the finish line, and using your time beyond work hours to produce, rather than merely consume. For aspiring entrepreneurs, this message is paramount. Many dream of starting a business, but remain stuck in the consumption phase, endlessly researching ideas, buying courses, reading books, but never actually doing. The shift happens when you stop consuming business advice and start creating a minimum viable product or service. It means taking that idea, however imperfect, and bringing it into existence. It's about going from "I want to start a business" to "I am building a business." It's about being an active participant in the marketplace, not just a passive observer. Even for students, this principle applies. Instead of just consuming knowledge from textbooks and lectures, how can you create with that knowledge? Could you start a blog about a subject you're passionate about, offering unique insights? Could you build a small app to solve a problem for your peers? Could you tutor others, leveraging your understanding to provide a valuable service? The act of creating, even in a small way, instills an entrepreneurial spirit and opens your eyes to the boundless possibilities of generating value. The shift from consumer to creator is also a profound psychological transformation. It moves you from a position of dependency and reaction to one of empowerment and proactive engagement. When you create, you are actively shaping your environment, solving problems, and contributing something unique to the world. This sense of agency fuels ambition, resilience, and a deeper understanding of how true wealth is built by serving others and meeting their needs. Consider the story of Lisa. Lisa worked in a corporate job she didn't love. Her evenings and weekends were spent consuming social media, binge-watching TV, and complaining about her lack of financial progress. One day, tired of the cycle, she decided to try something different. She was good at organizing and decluttering. She started offering her services to friends and family, initially for free, then for a small fee. She wasn't just consuming advice on how to organize, she was creating an organized space for others. As word spread, her side hustle grew. She learned about marketing, pricing, and client management. She eventually quit her job and turned her passion into a thriving business, helping dozens of clients and even hiring a small team. Lisa moved from consuming entertainment to creating order and value, and her financial life transformed as a result. The consumer mindset is often one of scarcity, focused on what one lacks and what one needs to acquire to feel complete. The creator mindset, conversely, is one of abundance, focused on what one possesses in terms of skills, ideas, and resources, and how those can be deployed to create something of value for others. This creative impulse is the engine of wealth. It's about turning your skills into services, your ideas into products, your problems into solutions for others. This doesn't mean you should stop consuming entirely. Learning, for instance, requires consuming information, books, courses, podcasts. But the wealthy consume with a purpose. They consume to learn, to grow, to be inspired, and to fuel their own creation. They are discerning consumers, understanding that every consumption choice should ideally contribute to their long-term growth, or provide a necessary respite that recharges their creative batteries. They don't just mindlessly scroll, they strategically seek knowledge. They don't just buy, they invest. The foundation of lasting financial growth lies not just in earning a high income or even in disciplined saving, but in the relentless pursuit of creation. It's about understanding that wealth is attracted to value, and value is created by solving problems for others, by producing things they desire, by offering services that meet their needs. It's about shifting from being a passive recipient of the world's offerings to becoming an active contributor, a builder, an innovator. So, where do you spend most of your time and energy? Are you primarily a consumer, always on the receiving end, absorbing and acquiring? Or are you actively seeking opportunities to create, to produce, to add value to the world around you? Are you building something, offering something, solving something? Because until you consciously make this pivot, until you embrace the identity of a creator, your financial future will remain tethered to the whims of others' creations and your own finite capacity for consumption. And once you begin to create, you'll quickly realize that the value you produce, whether it's a product, a service, or an idea, becomes a tangible asset. But for these assets to truly multiply and generate the kind of wealth that offers ultimate freedom, they must be put into motion. They must be deployed. They must be invested. Chapter 11. Investing or staying broke. Why does money, when allowed to merely sit idle, almost guarantee that you remain financially tethered, perpetually feeling behind, or even gradually eroding your own potential wealth? While that very same money, when put to work through the power of strategic investing, can open floodgates to financial freedom, multiplying itself and building a legacy that transcends mere earning. This isn't a philosophical musing, it's a foundational truth, one that separates the perpetually struggling from the genuinely wealthy. This chapter is not an invitation to invest, it's a stark warning about the profound cost of not investing. It is about understanding that in the relentless pursuit of financial mastery, the choice isn't merely to invest or not invest. The choice is often investing or staying broke. We've systematically dismantled many illusions on our journey so far. We began by exposing the internal shackles of the poverty mindset trap, followed by shattering the illusion of hard work, revealing that sheer effort without leverage is a treadmill to exhaustion. We then confronted the uncomfortable truth that saving is not wealth in itself, highlighting how idle money quietly diminishes under the relentless hand of inflation. Our gaze then turned to the schooling lie, recognizing that formal education primarily prepares us for employment, not ownership, and how the comfort zone poison stifles the very courage needed for growth. We acknowledged the insidious influence of poverty circles, which subtly drag us back to mediocrity, and most recently we laid bare the enemy called salary, recognizing its potential to cap our financial freedom if it remains our sole source of income. Finally, we explored the transformative shift from consumer to creator, understanding that production, not just consumption, is the true engine of wealth. Now we arrive at the pivotal crossroads where all these insights converge into action, investing. For many, the word investing conjures images of Wall Street brokers, complex algorithms, and high-stakes gambling. It feels intimidating, exclusive, and far removed from their everyday reality. This perception, often perpetuated by a lack of financial education, as we discussed in Chapter 4, is itself a significant barrier to wealth. The truth is, investing, at its core, is simply the act of deploying your money, your accumulated resources, into assets that have the potential to grow in value or generate income over time. It is the active step that transforms passive savings into dynamic wealth-generating machines. Failing to invest, therefore, isn't a neutral choice, it's an active decision to guarantee financial stagnation. If your money is not working for you, it is actively working against you. We already touched upon inflation in Chapter 3, the quiet thief that erodes purchasing power. But beyond inflation, money that sits idle in a low-interest savings account, or worse, under a mattress, suffers from the devastating silent killer of lost opportunity cost. Every single day that your money is not invested, it is losing the opportunity to compound, to multiply, to generate more wealth. This isn't just a theoretical loss, it's a tangible, quantifiable absence of future abundance. It means choosing to work indefinitely for your money, rather than allowing your money to eventually work for you, ultimately leading to a life where you are perpetually playing catch-up. Consider two individuals, Maria and John. Both are 25 years old, and both managed to save $100 per month diligently. Maria puts her $100 into a traditional savings account, earning a negligible 0.1% interest. She feels safe, secure in the knowledge that her money is there, accessible. John, however, decides to invest his $100 monthly into a diversified low-cost index fund that tracks the overall stock market, historically averaging around 7 to 10% annual returns. Fast forward 30 years. Maria has meticulously saved $36,000, and with her minimal interest, it might have grown to roughly $36,500. She's disciplined, yes, but she's effectively staying broke in real terms, barely outpacing inflation, if at all. John, having invested the same $100 monthly, could potentially see his $36,000 contribution grow to over $120,000, perhaps even more, through the power of compounding. The initial difference seems small, but the long-term impact is monumental. John's money has been working tirelessly, compounding on itself, while Maria's money sat idle, its purchasing power quietly diminishing. This is the stark reality. Choosing not to invest is a choice to remain financially stagnant. So, how do the financially savvy put their money to work? They do so by acquiring assets. Remember our discussion in Chapter 7 about good debt versus bad debt. Good debt is used to acquire assets. Assets are things that put money in your pocket or increase in value over time. This is the fundamental shift, moving your capital from being a consumer-driven expense to an asset-driven investment. Let's explore some of these fundamental paths to investing, keeping them practical and accessible, not intimidating. One of the most common and powerful avenues for wealth creation is investing in stocks and bonds. When you buy a stock, you're essentially buying a tiny piece of a company. As that company grows, becomes more profitable, and increases in value, so does your share. This isn't gambling if done strategically, it's about becoming a part owner of thriving businesses. For most people, the simplest and most effective way to start is through diversified index funds or exchange-traded funds, ETFs, which allow you to invest in hundreds or thousands of companies simultaneously with a single purchase, spreading your risk and capturing the overall growth of the market. This strategy requires patience and a long-term perspective, letting the power of compounding work its magic over decades. You are no longer just a consumer of products these companies sell. You are an owner, directly benefiting from their success. Then there's real estate. Owning physical property, whether it's your primary residence, a rental property, or commercial space, can be a potent wealth-building tool. We saw in Chapter 7 how good debt, like a mortgage, can be leveraged to acquire real estate, allowing you to control a large asset with a smaller upfront capital investment. As property values generally appreciate over time, and if you can generate rental income that exceeds your expenses, Real estate becomes a powerful asset that pays you monthly while simultaneously growing in value. It's a tangible asset that can provide both cash flow and capital appreciation, often serving as a strong hedge against inflation. Beyond traditional real estate, consider investing in businesses. This can take several forms. It could be buying a small existing business outright, becoming an active entrepreneur, or it could be investing in a promising startup or a private company that aligns with your values and growth potential. This path often requires more specialized knowledge and a higher risk tolerance, but the potential returns can be exponential. You're not just buying a share of a company on a stock exchange, you're buying into the very engine of wealth creation, directly participating in the growth and profitability of a venture. This is where the creator mindset truly shines, recognizing a problem, building a solution, and attracting capital to scale that solution. And in our modern era, we cannot ignore digital assets and intellectual property. This is where the shift from consumer to creator becomes incredibly powerful. This could involve creating and selling online courses, digital books, software, unique digital art, NFTs, or even building a monetized online platform or blog. Once created, these assets can generate passive income streams with minimal ongoing effort, leveraging technology and your knowledge to reach a global audience. The initial investment is often your time and expertise, as we discussed in Chapter 2, a form of invested effort, rather than large sums of money, making it an accessible entry point for many aspiring wealth creators. The beauty of investing is that you don't need to be rich to start. This is a common myth, another facet of the poverty mindset trap. The most crucial element is not the amount you start with, but the act of starting and consistency. Many investment platforms now allow you to begin with very small sums, even as little as $5 or $10. The goal is to build the habit, to make investing a regular part of your financial routine, just like paying a bill or saving a portion of your income. It's about embracing the long game, understanding that the greatest returns come not from timing the market, but from time in the market. Think of Emma. Emma was a young professional with a modest salary. She believed investing was only for the wealthy, but after reading stories of people who started small, she decided to set up an automatic transfer of just $25 from her paycheck into a diversified investment fund every 2 weeks. It felt insignificant at first, barely noticeable. She didn't check it daily or obsess over market fluctuations. She simply let it run, consistently contributing her small amount. After 10 years, that seemingly small, consistent investment, combined with the magic of compounding, had grown into a surprisingly substantial sum, far exceeding what she could have saved in a traditional account. Emma realized that consistency, patience, and the courage to start small were her greatest assets. She didn't need a huge lump sum, she needed a disciplined plan and the belief that every small contribution counted. This is why consistent, well-informed investing is the cornerstone of building lasting wealth. It requires self-education to understand the basics, the courage to step out of your comfort zone and embrace calculated risks, and the discipline to continue investing even when markets are volatile or desires for instant gratification arise. It means shifting your focus from spending every dollar you earn to strategically deploying a portion of every dollar you earn to create more dollars. The financially trapped often see their income as money to be spent or saved for emergencies. The wealth creators see their income, especially surplus income, as capital to be invested. They prioritize putting their money to work, understanding that this is how they escape the perpetual need to trade their time for money. They understand that their wealth is not measured by their income, but by their assets and the income those assets generate. So, where is your money right now? Is it predominantly sitting idle, slowly succumbing to inflation and missing out on exponential growth? Or is it actively deployed, out there in the marketplace, diligently working for you, multiplying your efforts and building the foundation for your financial freedom? The choice, ultimately, is yours. But understand this, in the relentless pursuit of financial liberation, simply earning and saving is often not enough. You must become an active participant in the growth of your capital. You must choose to invest. And as you begin this journey of conscious investment, you will quickly discover that it demands a profound shift in your daily choices, a consistent commitment that often requires you to prioritize your long-term vision over your immediate impulses. This, my friend, is where discipline over desire becomes not just a concept, but a powerful wealth-building habit. Chapter 12. Discipline over desire. Why do so many bright, intelligent, and even well-meaning individuals consistently sabotage their own wealth, undermine their financial aspirations, and find themselves trapped in cycles of barely enough simply by giving in to momentary temptations? It's a question that plagues countless lives, leading to a frustrating paradox. The desire for long-term financial freedom is strong, yet the impulse for immediate gratification often proves irresistible. This isn't a flaw in your character, it's a fundamental battle within the human psyche, a constant tug-of-war between your higher financial aspirations and your primal urges for comfort, pleasure, or instant relief. This chapter is about understanding that profound conflict and why, in the relentless pursuit of financial mastery, the ultimate victory lies in mastering discipline over desire. We've systematically journeyed through critical landscapes to bring you to this pivotal point. We unmasked the poverty mindset trap, where limiting beliefs dictate our reality. We shattered the illusion of hard work, revealing that effort without strategy is a treadmill to exhaustion. We confronted the uncomfortable truth that saving is not wealth in itself, highlighting how idle money quietly diminishes. Our gaze turned to the schooling lie, recognizing formal education's primary role in preparing us for employment, not ownership. We then grappled with the comfort zone poison, the subtle sedative that stifles the courage needed for growth, and acknowledged the insidious influence of poverty circles, which subtly drag us back to mediocrity. We laid bare the enemy called salary, recognizing its potential to cap our financial freedom if it remains our sole income source. We explored the transformative shift from consumer to creator, understanding that production, not just consumption, is the true engine of wealth. And in our last conversation, we faced the stark reality that the choice is often investing or staying broke, emphasizing that deploying your money strategically is non-negotiable for growth. All these insights, all these strategies, ultimately hinge on one thing: your ability to exercise discipline. For many, financial struggle isn't a matter of insufficient income or a lack of opportunities. It's a direct consequence of a pervasive lack of self-control and a relentless surrender to instant gratification. We live in a world engineered for immediate desire fulfillment. Want food? Order it to your door. Want entertainment? Stream it instantly. Want to buy something? One click and it's on its way. This hyper-connected, on-demand culture, while convenient, has inadvertently dulled our capacity for patience, for delayed gratification, for the deliberate deferment of pleasure in favor of a greater future reward. And nowhere is this more destructive than in personal finance. Think about the subtle, everyday temptations that erode financial growth. It's the daily designer coffee that seems harmless, but over a year adds up to hundreds of dollars that could have been invested. It's the impulse purchase online, clicked during a moment of boredom or stress, that adds to debt or depletes savings earmarked for growth. It's the subscription service you rarely use but can't be bothered to cancel. It's the social pressure to join expensive outings you can't afford. Revisiting our poverty circles from Chapter 6. Each of these individual choices, seemingly minor, acts like a tiny leak in a dam. By themselves, they don't seem significant. But over time, the cumulative effect is devastating, slowly eroding your financial foundation, preventing capital accumulation, and ensuring you remain stuck, or even regress, despite your best intentions. Consider Michael. Michael earns a decent salary, but he's always broke. He complains about inflation and the cost of living, yet he never seems to have money for investments or emergencies. His issue isn't income, it's discipline. He loves eating out, so he orders takeout almost every night, costing him hundreds more than cooking at home. He has multiple streaming services he barely watches, the latest gaming console, and a closet full of clothes he rarely wears, bought on impulse. He justifies these expenses as treating himself, or living a little. Each month his paycheck arrives, and within days it's gone, consumed by a relentless stream of desires. He wants financial freedom, but his actions are diametrically opposed to that goal. He is a prisoner of his own impulses, constantly prioritizing fleeting pleasure over lasting prosperity. His financial growth is not sabotaged by external forces, but by his internal lack of control. Contrast Michael with Emily. Emily, earning a similar salary, has a different approach. She sets a strict budget for discretionary spending, tracks her expenses diligently, and consciously delays major purchases. She packs her lunch for work, brewing coffee at home. She consciously limits her streaming subscriptions to 1 or 2 that she genuinely uses. When she gets a bonus, her first thought isn't, "What can I buy?" but "Where can I invest this?" This isn't about deprivation, it's about conscious choice. It's about exercising delayed gratification, the ability to resist the temptation of an immediate reward in favor of a larger or more valuable reward in the future. The power of delayed gratification is perhaps the most underrated superpower in wealth creation. It's the discipline to save when you want to spend, to invest when you want to splurge, to learn when you want to relax, to build when you want to consume. It's the recognition that your present self can make choices that empower your future self. This isn't easy. Our brains are hardwired for immediate rewards. The dopamine hit from a new purchase is powerful, but the ability to override that immediate impulse, to pause, to weigh the long-term consequences, is what truly separates wealth creators from those who remain perpetually unfulfilled. Consistent budgeting, therefore, is not a punishment. It's an act of radical self-love and financial empowerment. It's a tool of discipline that allows you to consciously allocate your resources, directing your money with purpose, rather than letting it haphazardly flow out of your life. It means knowing exactly where your money is going, making intentional decisions about every dollar, and ensuring that a portion of your income is always directed towards your wealth-building goals, savings, investments, debt repayment, before it gets consumed by desires. It's about being the boss of your money, not its slave. Without a budget, you're flying blind, relying on hope rather than a deliberate plan. Consider Alex, a university student struggling with debt, a type of bad debt we discussed in Chapter 7. He decided to implement a strict budget. Every penny he earned from his part-time job was allocated: rent, food, transport, and a crucial portion for debt repayment and a small investment. He cut out daily coffees, stopped buying new clothes every month, and cooked all his meals. It was hard initially, a constant battle against the desire for convenience and peer pressure, but he stuck to it. Within 2 years, he had significantly reduced his student loan burden and had even started his small investment portfolio, as Emma did in Chapter 11. His classmates, who earned similar amounts but lacked his discipline, remained deeply in debt, wondering how he managed it. Alex understood that his consistent, disciplined choices were more powerful than any sudden windfall. This highlights the profound power of disciplined habits. Wealth is not typically built through a single grand gesture or a stroke of luck. It is the cumulative result of countless small, consistent and disciplined actions taken day after day, week after week, year after year. It's the daily decision to save that extra $5 instead of spending it. It's the consistent learning about investing, even for just 15 minutes a day, linking back to self-education from Chapter 4. It's the regular review of your budget and investment portfolio. These micro-decisions, often unglamorous and seemingly insignificant in isolation, compound over time into massive financial outcomes. Think of it like building a magnificent sandcastle. You don't dump a truckload of sand and expect it to magically appear. You start with small handfuls, shaping them carefully, adding one bucket at a time, patiently building layer upon layer. The castle's grandeur is a result of consistent, disciplined effort, not a single large pour. Financial freedom works the same way. It's built grain by grain, dollar by dollar, disciplined choice by disciplined choice. Mastering self-control is a cornerstone of wealth creation because it directly impacts your ability to accumulate capital. Without discipline, surplus income is immediately consumed, leaving nothing to invest. Manage debt. Discipline is crucial for paying down bad debt and using good debt strategically. Invest consistently. Market fluctuations and emotional impulses can derail investment plans. Discipline ensures you stay the course. Delay gratification. This allows you to prioritize long-term asset building over short-term consumption. Resist social pressure. Discipline empowers you to say no to financially destructive social norms, revisiting poverty circles from Chapter 6. Developing this discipline isn't about being perfect, it's about being persistent. It involves 1. Setting clear goals. When you know why you're saving or investing, e.g. for a down payment, retirement, a business, the desire for the instant gratification is easier to resist. 2. Creating systems. Make disciplined choices automatic. Set up automated transfers to your savings and investment accounts. Unsubscribe from marketing emails that trigger impulse buys. 3. Identifying triggers. Become aware of what makes you susceptible to impulse spending or procrastination. Is it stress? Boredom? Social media? Once identified, you can develop strategies to counteract them. 4. Practicing small victories. Start with small acts of discipline, saving $10, saying no to one unnecessary purchase. Each small victory builds your self-control muscle. And 5. Visualizing your future self. Remind yourself regularly of the empowered, financially free person you are building. This connection to your future self can be a powerful motivator. The battle for financial freedom is often won, not on the stock market, but in the quiet moments of daily decision-making. It's the internal dialogue where the voice of immediate desire clashes with the voice of long-term discipline. The person who consistently chooses the latter, who understands that true freedom comes from mastering oneself, will invariably build a life of abundance. They understand that every disciplined choice is an investment in their future self, a deposit into their financial freedom account. So, where in your life is desire currently winning over discipline? Are your impulsive choices quietly siphoning away your wealth potential? Are you willing to embrace the discomfort of delayed gratification for the profound reward of lasting financial freedom? Because until you master this fundamental internal battle, until you consistently prioritize your long-term vision over your momentary urges, you will remain trapped in a cycle of earning, spending, and wishing. And this mastery of self, this shift in control, is not just about your own financial well-being. It's about breaking patterns that may have held your family captive for generations. It's about setting a new standard, a new legacy, by finally breaking generational chains. Chapter 13. Breaking Generational Chains. Why do some families seem destined to struggle financially for generations, perpetually caught in cycles of scarcity, debt, and limited opportunity, while others, often starting from equally humble beginnings, systematically build lasting wealth, creating a legacy that elevates not just themselves but their children and their children's children? This isn't about fate or genetic predisposition for poverty. It's about something far more insidious, yet profoundly within our control: the unseen, often unspoken patterns of inherited mindsets, habits, and a pervasive lack of financial education that subtly pass from one generation to the next, like an invisible inheritance of limitation. This chapter is about recognizing that silent inheritance and, more importantly, understanding how you can become the pivotal figure who finally says, "No more." This is where you truly begin the arduous yet profoundly liberating work of breaking generational chains. We have rigorously explored many facets of financial stagnation and liberation. We uncovered the internal prison of the poverty mindset trap and shattered the illusion of hard work. We confronted the uncomfortable truth that saving is not wealth in itself and exposed the schooling lie that steers us towards employment rather than ownership. We grappled with the comfort zone poison and navigated the complex influence of poverty circles. We dissected the enemy called salary, understanding its limitations, and embraced the transformative shift from consumer to creator. Most recently, we faced the stark reality that the choice is often investing or staying broke, emphasizing that strategic deployment of money is non-negotiable. And all these insights, all these strategies, we learned in Chapter 12, ultimately hinge on mastering discipline over desire. But what if the very foundation of your financial understanding, the very habits you unconsciously adopted, were handed down to you, already flawed, long before you even made your first conscious financial decision? Poverty, for many, is a family tradition, though not one celebrated or willingly passed down. It's a bitter heirloom, consisting not of physical assets, but of deeply ingrained financial beliefs, emotional responses to money, and habitual patterns of spending, saving, and earning that perpetuate struggle. You may have grown up hearing phrases like, "We can't afford that," uttered with resignation, or witnessing constant arguments over bills, or seeing parents living paycheck to paycheck, even when they worked incredibly hard. Perhaps wealth was spoken of with suspicion, as something only those people had, or as inherently tainted. These are the subtle yet powerful lessons absorbed during your formative years, shaping your unconscious money script long before you even had a bank account. Consider the story of David, a driven young man who grew up in a household where money was a constant source of stress. His parents were loving but perpetually in debt, always behind on bills, and quick to spend any windfall on immediate gratification. They believed money was meant to be enjoyed immediately because it never lasted. David absorbed this deeply. As an adult, despite a good job, he found himself replicating these patterns. He'd earn a decent salary, but it would vanish quickly, consumed by impulse purchases and a lifestyle he couldn't sustain. He was constantly stressed, mirroring his parents' financial anxiety, even though his income was higher. He wanted to break free, but the invisible chains of inherited habits and beliefs felt unbreakable. He was caught in a generational cycle of consumption, not creation, fueled by a profound lack of financial education passed down through the family line. This lack of financial education within families is perhaps the most devastating component of generational poverty. Schools, as we explored in Chapter 4, often fail to teach practical financial literacy. If this gap isn't filled at home, children grow into adults utterly ill-equipped to navigate the complexities of personal finance, debt, investing, or wealth creation. They learn about money by observation, by mimicking the habits of their parents, siblings, and immediate community. If those observations are of scarcity, impulse spending, and a fear of investment, then that becomes their default operating system. Children observe whether their parents talk openly and strategically about money, or if it's a taboo subject shrouded in anxiety. They see if bills are paid on time, if savings are prioritized, or if debt is a constant companion. They learn if investing is a natural part of financial life or an exotic concept reserved for others. When parents are caught in the debt addiction or perpetually stuck in the enemy called salary mindset, these patterns become normalized for the next generation. It's not about blame, it's about recognizing the profound, often unconscious transfer of financial illiteracy and limiting beliefs. This perpetuates a cycle of consumption, not creation within families. If the family culture prioritizes instant gratification, buying the newest gadget, or keeping up appearances, even on credit, then money rarely gets accumulated for long-term investment or asset building. Children grow up believing that money is for spending, not for growing. They become expert consumers, but rarely learn the skills or cultivate the mindset of a creator. This directly impacts their ability to invest and exercise discipline over desire, ensuring the cycle continues. So, how do you become the link in the chain that snaps this destructive pattern? How do you transform an inherited legacy of struggle into one of abundance and opportunity for those who come after you? It begins with a conscious, courageous decision to confront the patterns you've inherited and to commit to a fundamentally different path. The first step is conscious awareness. You must be brutally honest with yourself about the financial habits, beliefs, and conversations you observed and absorbed growing up. Which of your current financial struggles are echoes of your parents' struggles? Which of your spending habits are simply replications of what you saw around you? This isn't about blaming your family. It's about understanding the source of your programming so you can begin to rewrite it. Once you see the pattern, you can consciously choose to disrupt it. The next and most vital step is teaching children financial literacy. This is not just a responsibility, it's a sacred duty. Because if schools won't teach it, and your parents didn't, then it falls to you to equip the next generation with the tools for financial freedom. This begins early, with age-appropriate lessons, allowance and budgeting. Even young children can learn the basics of earning, saving and spending by managing a small allowance. Teach them to allocate money for different purposes: saving, spending, giving. The power of compounding. Use simple examples to show how money grows over time. A lemonade stand could illustrate saving and investing for a larger goal. Assets versus liabilities. Explain, in simple terms, the difference between things that put money in your pocket and things that take money out. A toy that generates money, e.g. selling handmade crafts, is an asset. A video game console is a liability. Delayed gratification. Encourage children to save for bigger goals rather than immediately spending every dollar. This builds the discipline muscle. Entrepreneurial thinking. Foster creativity and problem solving. Encourage them to think about how they can create value, whether it's shoveling snow, selling baked goods, or helping a neighbor. Open money conversations. Make money a normal, calm topic of discussion in your home, rather than something fraught with anxiety or taboo. Discuss budgeting, investments and financial goals openly. Let's look at Sarah, our graphic designer again. After breaking her own comfort zone and building a successful digital products business, she became acutely aware of the financial patterns she had unconsciously replicated from her own parents, who had always struggled with debt. Sarah was determined her own children wouldn't inherit that anxiety. From a young age, she gave her kids a small allowance, but with a twist. A portion had to be saved, a portion could be spent, and a portion had to be invested in a pretend stock market game she created for them, where they could see their money grow. She involved them in family budget discussions, not to burden them, but to demystify money. When they wanted a new toy, she'd ask, "How can we create some value to earn money for that?" rather than just saying no or buying it instantly. Her children grew up with a fundamentally different understanding of money, not as something to be feared or consumed, but as a tool to be managed, grown and created. Beyond explicit teaching, modeling smart money habits is crucial. Children learn far more from what you do than what you say. If you preach saving but constantly splurge, they will mimic your actions, not your words. If you talk about investing but never actually invest, you're sending a mixed message. Breaking generational chains requires you to embody the change you want to see. This means live within your means and avoiding bad debt. Demonstrate responsible spending and the discipline to pay off liabilities quickly. Prioritizing saving and investing. Show them that a portion of every income is allocated for growth, not just immediate consumption. Making conscious financial decisions. Involve them in age-appropriate discussions about financial trade-offs and goals. Embracing an ownership mindset. Show them how you create value, whether through a business, investments, or developing new skills. Let them see you engaged in the act of production, not just consumption. Recovering from financial mistakes. Teach them resilience by demonstrating how you learn from setbacks and adjust your strategies. Finally, and perhaps most importantly, breaking generational chains means deliberately creating opportunities for wealth transfer, not just debt. Most families, unintentionally, transfer debt, financial stress, and limiting beliefs. To break the cycle, you must actively build assets that can be passed down. This means building an investment portfolio. Instead of just saving for retirement, build an investment portfolio. Stocks, bonds, real estate, etc., that can eventually generate passive income for your later years and potentially be gifted or inherited, providing a head start for the next generation. Creating profitable businesses. A successful business isn't just a source of income, it's a tangible asset that can be sold, passed down, or provide employment and opportunity for future family members. Acquiring appreciating real estate. A rental property or a well-maintained home can provide stable income and a valuable asset that grows over time. Developing intellectual property. Royalties from books, patents, or digital products can be a powerful, ongoing source of income that transcends generations. This isn't about making your children lazy or entitled. It's about providing them with a launching pad, a foundation of financial understanding and capital that allows them to pursue their dreams from a position of strength, rather than being perpetually burdened by debt and scarcity. It's about changing the very trajectory of your family's financial future. The courage required to break these generational patterns is immense. You might face resistance from family members who are comfortable with the old ways, who might even feel threatened by your newfound ambition or your different financial choices. You might be accused of being different, snobbish, or too focused on money. But remember, your commitment to financial freedom and to creating a better legacy for your family must outweigh the discomfort of temporary social friction. You are leading by example, paving a new path, and offering a different possibility. So, are you content to let the financial struggles of your past generations become the financial reality of your future ones? Or are you willing to be the brave, disciplined individual who consciously chooses to disrupt the inherited patterns, to educate, to model, and to build a new financial future for your lineage? Because the act of breaking these chains is not just about accumulating wealth for yourself, it's about a profound responsibility, a duty to transform your family's financial destiny. And this leads us to the ultimate, often overlooked truth about true wealth. It is not just a personal achievement, it is fundamentally a responsibility. Chapter 14. Wealth is a responsibility. If wealth was simply about endless luxury, about acquiring the biggest house, the fastest car, or the most exclusive experiences, then why do so many truly rich people still feel a profound sense of unfulfillment, a nagging emptiness that no material possession can fill? Why do we hear stories of billionaires who, despite their unimaginable fortunes, struggle with purpose, with meaning, or with inner peace? This isn't a riddle to mock their struggles, it's a critical question that exposes a deep, often missed truth about financial mastery. It reveals that accumulating money while powerful is only one half of the equation. The other, often more significant half is understanding that true wealth is not just a personal achievement, it is fundamentally a profound responsibility. We have traveled a long and challenging path together. We began by dismantling the poverty mindset trap, confronting the internal narratives that hold us back. We shattered the illusion of hard work, recognizing that effort without leverage is a treadmill to exhaustion. We faced the reality that saving is not wealth in itself, and exposed the schooling lie that inadvertently steers us toward employment. We grappled with the comfort zone poison and the insidious pull of poverty circles. We even confronted the enemy called salary, understanding its limitations, and embraced the transformative shift from consumer to creator. Most recently, we faced the stark choice of investing or staying broke, and learned the non-negotiable power of discipline over desire. And in Chapter 13, we discussed the profound impact of breaking generational chains. All these steps have been about acquiring, about building, about overcoming personal limitations to achieve financial success. Now, as you stand closer to that achievement, it's time to understand what it truly means to possess it. For many, the vision of wealth is purely aspirational, tied to symbols of status and endless consumption. It's about the freedom to buy anything, to go anywhere, to never worry about a bill again. And while financial freedom certainly offers liberation from scarcity, if that's your only definition of wealth, you will find it to be an empty pursuit. True wealth, the kind that brings deep satisfaction and lasting impact, goes far beyond personal gratification. It is a powerful tool, a lever for influence, a catalyst for change, and a resource that comes with inherent accountability. Think of money as a force like electricity. In the hands of someone who understands it, electricity can light up homes, power industries, and connect the world. In the hands of someone ignorant or careless, it can cause destruction. Wealth is no different. In the hands of those who see it merely as a means for personal indulgence, it can lead to emptiness, isolation, and a superficial existence. But in the hands of those who recognize it as a responsibility, it becomes a powerful engine for creating value, solving problems, and leaving a positive mark on the world. Consider the common perception. People often view the rich as solely focused on accumulating more for themselves. And while accumulation is certainly part of the journey to wealth, it's rarely the ultimate destination for those who find true fulfillment. Those who truly master wealth understand that its greatest power lies in its ability to create impact. Let's look at Sarah, our graphic designer, who built a thriving digital products business and actively worked to break generational chains by teaching her children about money. As her business grew and her investments compounded, she found herself with significant surplus capital. Her initial thought might have been to upgrade her lifestyle even further, a bigger house, more luxury items. But as her wealth matured, so did her perspective. She started asking herself, what more can this money do? How can it solve a problem beyond my own? Sarah realized her community lacked proper arts education for underprivileged children. She understood the power of creativity, and she had the financial resources to make a difference. She didn't just donate a small amount, she leveraged her growing wealth and her network to fund a new after-school art program. She invested not just money, but her time and expertise, helping to design the curriculum and secure a space. Her wealth became a tool for impact, for providing opportunities that would otherwise be out of reach for many. The fulfillment she derived from seeing those children discover their artistic talents far surpassed any fleeting pleasure from a new luxury purchase. Her money was no longer just about her, it was about elevating others. This is the essence of responsible wealth, using money to create freedom, not just for yourself but for others. For yourself, it's the freedom from financial worry, the freedom to pursue your passions without constraint, unshackling yourself from the enemy called salary, and the freedom to control your own time, mastering the illusion of hard work. But for others, it can be the freedom from lack of opportunity, the freedom from educational barriers, challenging the schooling lie, or the freedom from the grinding cycle of poverty, actively breaking generational chains. Wealth provides the ability to invest in solutions, to fund innovation, and to support causes that truly matter. It allows you to become a patron of progress, to back visionary ideas that might not immediately yield profit, but promise profound societal benefit. It enables you to take calculated risks on social enterprises or philanthropic ventures that an average income earner simply couldn't afford. It amplifies your voice and your influence, allowing you to advocate for change on a larger scale. Consider the entrepreneur David, who expanded his bakery business with good debt. As his business thrived, he didn't just focus on maximizing his personal profits. He realized he had a responsibility to his employees and his community. He invested in better training programs for his staff, provided competitive wages and benefits, and sourced his ingredients from local farms, supporting other small businesses in his area. He started a program to donate unsold baked goods to local shelters, reducing waste and feeding those in need. David's wealth, built through hard work and strategic thinking, became a powerful engine for community well-being. He understood that a truly successful business and the wealth it generated wasn't just about his bottom line, it was about the ecosystem it supported. He felt a deeper purpose, a stronger connection to his community, precisely because his wealth was tied to a larger impact. The concept of wealth as a responsibility also means careful stewardship of your resources. It's not just about how you get money, but how you manage it, protect it, and grow it with a long-term vision. This circles back to the discipline over desire we discussed, but now applied to a higher purpose. It means resisting impulsive spending, not just for your own financial freedom, but because those resources can be better deployed for meaningful impact. It means rigorous investment decisions, as explored in Investing or Staying Broke, not just for personal gain, but to ensure your capital grows to serve greater purposes. It means being a wise custodian of your wealth, understanding that it's a powerful force that can be used for immense good. And then there's the profound concept of leaving a lasting legacy. For those who truly understand wealth, it's not just about what they accumulate in their lifetime, it's about what they leave behind. This isn't just about financial inheritance, though that is a part of it. It's about leaving behind a legacy of opportunity, funding scholarships, creating educational programs, or investing in ventures that create jobs and economic growth for future generations. Impact, supporting scientific research, preserving natural resources, or advocating for social justice. Values: instilling a culture of financial literacy, generosity, and responsibility within your family and community. Innovation: backing revolutionary ideas that solve global challenges and improve human lives. Think of those historical figures whose names are synonymous with philanthropic foundations, groundbreaking institutions, or movements that transformed society. Their wealth was not merely about their personal comfort, it was a springboard for monumental change, a deliberate effort to solve problems and leave the world better than they found it. Their true wealth was measured not by their bank accounts, but by the lasting positive influence they exerted. This understanding transforms the pursuit of wealth from a selfish endeavor into a purposeful one. It moves you beyond the mere accumulation of assets to the deliberate creation of a meaningful life, anchored by your financial capacity. It means asking yourself, if I achieve significant wealth, what problems would I solve? What causes would I champion? What kind of world would I help create? The answers to these questions become a powerful driving force, transcending the often empty pursuit of material possessions. For students and aspiring entrepreneurs, this means thinking beyond just making money. It means asking, how can my future business or career create value and positive impact? It means integrating purpose into your financial journey from the very beginning. For salary earners, it means considering how your surplus income can be channeled into investments or charitable causes that align with your values, making your money work for something greater than just your next purchase. For those who are already wealthy, it's a constant reminder that their privilege comes with a profound obligation to use their resources wisely, to be catalysts for positive change, and to think beyond their own lifetimes. The challenge, of course, is that the journey to wealth itself is often portrayed as solely self-serving. Society bombards us with images of luxury and indulgence, rarely highlighting the quieter, more purposeful acts of wealth creation and deployment. But true, deeply satisfying financial success transcends mere accumulation. It blossoms when you understand that the wealth you build is not just for you, but through you, and ultimately, beyond you. It's about recognizing that as your capacity to earn and invest grows, so too does your capacity, and indeed your obligation, to contribute, to uplift and to leave a mark that far outlives any material possession. So, as you continue your journey toward financial mastery, ask yourself this: what is the highest purpose of your wealth? Is it merely to acquire more, or is it to become a responsible steward, a powerful force for good, a creator of impact, and a builder of legacy? Because the answer to that question will profoundly shape not just your bank account, but the very meaning of your financial journey. And once you truly grasp this responsibility, you are ready for the ultimate step, the final decisive leap that will forever redefine your financial reality and allow you to chart your exit from poverty. Chapter 15. Your exit from poverty. What if you could finally break free from the suffocating grip of financial struggle, shed the burden of constant worry, and systematically build a life of lasting wealth and genuine freedom? What would your days look like? How would your relationships change? What new possibilities would open up for you, for your family, and for the causes you care deeply about? This isn't a hypothetical fantasy designed to tease your imagination. It is a very real, attainable future. This chapter is your blueprint, the culmination of everything we've explored, distilled into a practical, actionable path for your exit from poverty. We have traveled a monumental distance together in this book. We've dissected the internal shackles of the poverty mindset trap, recognizing that your financial reality is merely a reflection of your deepest beliefs. We shattered the illusion of hard work, revealing that effort without strategy and leverage is a treadmill to exhaustion. We confronted the uncomfortable truth that saving is not wealth in itself, emphasizing that idle money diminishes. We exposed the schooling lie, understanding that formal education, while valuable, prepares us for employment, not ownership. We grappled with the comfort zone poison and the insidious pull of poverty circles, which subtly drag us back to mediocrity. We laid bare the enemy called salary, recognizing its potential to cap our financial freedom, and embraced the transformative shift from consumer to creator, understanding that production, not just consumption, is the true engine of wealth. We faced the stark choice of investing or staying broke, learned the non-negotiable power of discipline over desire, and discussed the profound impact of breaking generational chains. Finally, in our last conversation, we elevated our understanding to recognize that wealth is a responsibility, a powerful tool for impact and legacy. Now it's time to synthesize these truths into a practical, implementable strategy. Your exit from poverty or from financial stagnation is not about luck, nor is it about a sudden windfall. It is about deliberate actions, meticulous planning, and relentless, disciplined execution. It is a journey of intentional transformation where every step builds on the last, compounding into a trajectory of undeniable financial growth. This is your active participation in reshaping your destiny. This blueprint isn't a rigid, one-size-fits-all formula. It's a set of principles and actionable steps that, when consistently applied, create an unstoppable momentum toward financial freedom. It demands commitment, patience, and a willingness to confront discomfort. 1. Rewire your mindset. The daily affirmation of abundance. Your journey begins and ends in your mind. The poverty mindset trap is real, and it's powerful. To break free, you must consciously and consistently challenge its grip. This means daily, intentional work on your beliefs about money, worthiness, and possibility. Actionable step. Start each day with a few moments of intentional visualization and affirmation. Instead of dwelling on lack, visualize your desired financial future with clarity. Affirm, I am a wealth creator. Money flows to me easily and abundantly. I am worthy of financial freedom. This isn't magical thinking, it's reprogramming your subconscious. When opportunities arise, your mind, now primed for abundance, will be more likely to see them rather than dismiss them. Regularly audit your thoughts. When a limiting belief surfaces, I can't afford that, that's too risky for me, immediately challenge it. Ask, is this truly true, or is this an old program running? Then reframe it, how can I afford that, or what's the calculated risk here? 2. Master your time, the strategic investment of minutes. Time, as we discussed in The Wealthy Think Differently, is your most valuable non-renewable asset. The illusion of hard work arises when we spend time rather than invest it. Actionable step, implement the power hour or deep work blocks. Dedicate specific, uninterrupted periods each day, even just 30 to 60 minutes initially, to high-impact activities that directly contribute to your financial goals. This means focused time on self-education, planning investments, working on your side hustle, or strategizing your career advancement. Cut out time-wasting activities, excessive social media, unproductive TV, endless scrolling, and redirect that energy. For example, instead of an hour of mindless scrolling, spend 30 minutes learning about a new investment concept and 30 minutes brainstorming ways to apply a skill you already have to solve a market problem. Shift from saver to investor. Activating your capital. While saving is fundamental, saving is not wealth. Your money must work for you. Investing or staying broke is the stark reality. Actionable step. Automate your investments. Set up a recurring transfer from your checking account to an investment account, e.g. a low-cost index fund or ETF. The moment your paycheck hits, start small, even if it's just $25 or $50 a week. The goal is consistency and habit. Research and understand the basics of compounding. As your income grows, steadily increase your automated investment amount. This transforms saving from a stagnant act into a dynamic process of wealth creation, ensuring your money is always working harder than you are. 4. Embrace the creator mindset, the value generation habit. The profound shift from consumer to creator is central to liberating yourself from financial dependency. Actionable step. Dedicate time each week to identifying problems you can solve or value you can provide for others. This could be a side hustle, a new skill, or a product idea. Start small, experiment and learn. If you're an employee, think about how you can create more value for your employer that positions you for greater influence or better opportunities. If you are an aspiring entrepreneur, move from researching to doing. Build a simple prototype, offer a service to a few clients, get feedback. Every act of creation, no matter how small, moves you away from passive consumption and towards active wealth generation. 5. Manage debt as a tool, not a trap. The debt addiction ensnares millions. Your exit from poverty demands a clear strategic approach to debt. Actionable step: ruthlessly eliminate all high-interest, bad debt, credit cards, personal loans for consumption as quickly as possible. Prioritize these payments above almost everything else. Once bad debt is gone, reframe your thinking about debt. If you consider borrowing, ask, will this acquire an appreciating asset or generate more income than the cost of the debt? If the answer is no, avoid it. If yes, proceed with careful calculation, ensuring the return on investment justifies the borrowing. Use good debt strategically to acquire income-generating assets like real estate or to expand a profitable business. 6. Break free from the comfort zone. Embrace calculated discomfort. The comfort zone poison is a subtle sedative that kills ambition. True growth happens outside its confines. Actionable step: regularly identify one area of financial discomfort you've been avoiding and take a small, calculated step into it. This could be renegotiating a higher salary or fee if you're an employee or freelancer, learning about a new investment vehicle that intimidates you, reaching out to a financially successful person for mentorship, linking to poverty circles and wealth-driven networks from Chapter 6, launching a small side project, even if it feels daunting. Each time you do this, your confidence grows and your comfort zone expands. Resilience is built through challenging yourself, not through avoiding challenges. 7. Cultivate your wealth-driven network. The power of association. Your social circle profoundly impacts your financial destiny. To break free, you must curate your influences. Actionable step: consciously identify and seek out individuals who embody the financial success and mindset you aspire to. This can be through online communities, industry events, local business groups, or by actively seeking mentors. Spend less time with those who constantly pull you back into negative financial habits or limiting beliefs. This doesn't mean abandoning old friends, but it does mean diversifying your inner circle to include those who inspire, educate, and challenge you to grow. The conversations you have, the ideas you're exposed to, and the opportunities that arise from a positive network are invaluable. 8. The financial education imperative. Lifelong learning. The schooling lie leaves a critical gap in our financial knowledge. Your exit from poverty demands relentless self-education. Actionable step: make financial literacy a non-negotiable, lifelong habit. Dedicate specific time each week to learning. Read books on personal finance, investing, entrepreneurship, and wealth psychology. Listen to podcasts during your commute. Take online courses. Subscribe to reputable financial newsletters. The more you learn, the more clearly you will see opportunities, understand risks, and make informed decisions. Knowledge is power, and in the world of money, it is the ultimate differentiator. 9. Embrace responsibility. Wealth with purpose. Finally, understand that wealth is a responsibility. This isn't just about personal gain, it's about impact and legacy. Actionable step: as you accumulate wealth, intentionally define its purpose beyond mere consumption. Ask yourself, what problems can my growing resources help solve? How can I create opportunities for others? What legacy do I want to leave behind for my family and community? Start small, volunteer your time, donate a portion of your growing surplus to a cause you believe in, or mentor someone struggling. Integrating purpose into your financial journey from the outset provides profound motivation and ensures your wealth builds not just your bank account, but your fulfillment. This also directly contributes to breaking generational chains by modeling generosity and responsible stewardship. This blueprint is not a sprint, it is a marathon. It demands discipline over desire every single day. There will be setbacks, moments of doubt, and temptations to revert to old habits. The journey out of poverty or from stagnation to true wealth is rarely linear, But for every step backward, you can take 2 steps forward with conscious effort and unwavering commitment. Your current financial reality is not your fate. It is a reflection of past choices, inherited beliefs, and unexamined habits. But your future financial reality is entirely within your grasp. You have the power to rewrite your story, to dismantle the invisible chains, and to build a life of genuine abundance. This book, written by Godwin Elijah, has been a wake-up call, a mentor's honest conversation, and a roadmap. The knowledge is now within you. The power to change is yours. The question is no longer, are you still poor? The question is, what are you going to do about it, starting today? The choice is yours, and the first deliberate action to create your extraordinary financial future begins now.